has just ruined my mood.
Oh, well, welcome. We're going to have this discussion on is Islam religion of peace, talk about the issues of violence that I think you brought up last time. Now, I guess the question probably a lot of people, if they're watching the series, has on their mind. And last week, you put up literally zero defense for the reliability of the New Testament. Rather, you focused on jihad. And so, what I think was the expectation there that when you open up the Bible, the New Testament, and you start reading through the pages, um, the question pops out on your mind: how do we know this stuff is true? How do we know that this hasn't been changed or this is accurate? And so we needed evidence for that, and I think you produced literally zero. Rather, your focus was on ISIS and jihad, and you talked about some bombing which took place in Pakistan, things like that. So it kind of went off topic, but it seemed like whenever there was an issue, which I had a good point about the Bible or the New Testament or the prophet of the church, which is Paul.
Well,
The, the
sorry to
yeah,
cut you off, but
yeah,
you know, as I remember, and you can go and watch the stream back if you
yeah.
remember. You quoted Hitler. So the real topic of our last debate was the reliability of the Gospels. However, though, I you can watch the your previous debate back, and you went on to cleavage Christianity and Hitler
Well,
and the,
okay.
the the
Why
Holocaust.
was why was I
So,
why was I quoting Holocaust and
saying
Hitler?
that
Why?
I went off topic is a bit of a long stretch.
Why was I quoting Hitler and the Holocaust?
Sorry.
Why was I doing that? What was my argument?
Yeah, your argument was that because Paul wrote that the Jews killed Christ, killed God, uh, you know, people like Hitler, or well, at least Hitler, uh, he, he went on to this extreme path. That's basically was your argument because of Paul wrote something in the New Testament which people like Hitler, or well, in your example, Hitler mistook, and then Hitler went on to do what he did.
Well, let me share my screen just to make sure we understand the argument properly.
Yeah,
Um,
go ahead.
uh, yeah, yeah. I'm just share. So this little diagram will basically kind of explain it a little bit more detail. So what Paul wrote, he came up with the idea that the Jews killed Jesus. Okay, that's inside First Thessalonians. What that did, that stigmatized the Jews as Christ killers. Do you know what a stigmatization is?
Yeah, basically accusation that they were the ones who killed Christ.
Yeah. So you live now with a stigma upon yourself that you guys are that this is the type of people who you are. You guys are Christ killers. There's something inherently evil in you or something like that. This then created just this extreme burning rage against these type of people, okay, against the Jewish people. So then that led to violence, all right? 2000 years of persecution. So it's not just what Hitler did. It's 2000 years of persecution. All of this is being fueled by this belief that the Jews killed Jesus, which is deicide, okay? And then that finally led to the Holocaust. So you got to understand what Hitler did. He didn't come up with something new. He built upon already existing framework of you could say hatred and malice towards the Jewish people. And I think that's very important to understand. He was not an innovator. He didn't come up with anything on his own that he thought, okay, I'm coming up with this novel idea. He didn't. He basically borrowed what was already existing out there. So the argument is, which I've been trying to get you to understand, a prophet, when he comes into the world, he should bring peace, love, joy, justice, you know, not 2000 years of suffering and persecution and the death of 6 million Jews, which Paul did. And I think that's the question you should have answered. Here's why. Well, first of all, you should have came out and brought some evidences for the prophet of Paul. And what you did, when we'll get into that, you started reinterpreting verses of the Bible to make it look to make you were reading science into it, and you're trying to make them scientific. I think is what you did, but then I pointed that out. Look,
Well, again,
you know,
uh, sorry to cut you off,
yeah,
but the thing is, when it comes to the scriptures and science, you cannot prove a scripture and align it with science without any reinterpretation at all. And the
yes, you
thing is, you
can.
quoted, you gave me the alcohol argument, and the article, the what do we say? The analytics, or I won't say hypothesis, but the analytics of the scientist, or the article which you showed me about alcohol, and the verse of the Quran which you showed me about the alcohol, they were saying the same thing, but the wordings were different.
Okay,
The
let's take
wordings
a
were
look.
different.
When you say the
Word
okay, I'm a little
You're
bit
saying the same
confused.
thing, that the Quran
Let's
says that uh, alcohol shouldn't be in your veins; it's harmful for you. The article says the same thing, that any percentage of alcohol in your veins is harmful
no,
to
no, no,
you.
no, no. That's a
However,
misunderstanding.
though,
The
no, the
Quran's
thing is, the wordings aren't going to be, word. It's not going to be word to word, no matter how you look at it.
okay, Ahmed. Let me correct you for the third. This is the third time we're having this discussion. I understand what you're saying is that the wording is not going to be exact, so you kind of have to make an assumption, is what you're saying, right?
Not an assumption, but you have to see the similarities between the verse and the article.
I'm confused. I'm totally lost. What you mean? My point here is there should be no assumptions or making inferences. You know what an inference is?
I know
What?
what you mean, and let me explain it to you. What I'm trying to say is that the verse and the scientific article, or the scientific thesis, they aren't going to be word from word. So how do you know that what you're reading in this scripture is, aligned with modern science? Good question. Because if it's not word from word, or if it's vague, how do you know that what the scripture says aligns with science?
Uh,
So
Ahmed,
when you
I was okay. I
yeah,
was giving you word for word. Let's do word for word again, okay? I'm going to show it to you. It is literally word for word, and I want you to point out where you feel like I'm making an assumption as far as what I think it means, or something like that. Okay, so
no, it's
this
not an assumption. You see the similarities. If those
when you
two
say
things
see the
say the
similar,
same
okay,
thing,
you're
it's
saying you're
different
seeing the
wording. That's
similarities. What do
proof.
you mean by that? I don't understand what you're. Are you saying that I'm okay? So no, you're
Like,
admitting no assumption is
by
being made.
similarities, I mean, if the Quran says that alcohol is in your veins and it's not good, and the article says that, but in another word, or in another way, that's a similarity. A similarity is which is common in both places,
Okay, yeah.
and that is the presence of alcohol,
Okay,
right?
so
In veins.
so long as we agree that I'm not making an assumption upon the text, and that really does state the scientific fact word for word. So look. This is what science says. Many studies have shown that the overall health risks of drinking alcohol outweighs any benefits. Okay,
Yeah.
the bad outweighs the good. That's clear. The Quran 2:19. They have some benefit for the people, but their harm is far greater than their benefit. Now, my question for you is, can you see that the Quran is basically stating the exact same thing the scientific article is stating? Can you see that?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to deny it. It says
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. So
The
my
wordings might
point
be a bit different between the article and the verse, but it says literally the same thing. I'm
it's
granting you this argument.
okay. So my point to you was, Ahmed, when you produced those verses of the Bible, you kind of made a lot of assumptions in terms of what you thought it was referring to, a scientific fact, a scientific journal, and there just was no, it was too vague, and there was no way you could really prove that the author or that the two articles were in agreement, that it's actually talking about that scientific fact. So what my point is, we can't make interpretations and assumptions and stuff like that upon the text to make it agree with science. So going back to the point here, what my point here is, when you say Paul was a true apostle or prophet or whatever you want to say, well, he's basically a prophet. You did not present any evidence to prove that. Nothing.
Didn't I give you 1 Corinthians 15:41 and Timothy 1:7? But you
Yes,
said
and
I was reading into the text. That's what you said, even though I
I
showed you the article, and
but
they were
what
basically saying the
I
same
also
thing in different
stated,
words.
I also stated that what you showed is found in all religions. Remember that? All religions teach that
What?
stuff. Remember, I
Then
told you that what you showed me was basically found in all religions. Whatever, let's pull up that verse. We're going to go through it again with you, okay? To show you that
no,
there's nothing.
the thing is, again, this is a weak argument if it's found in all religions. If it's found in all religions, why are we following Islam?
Okay, because what
That's a
I
that's
showed you, no, no,
that's
no,
a
you're
of argument.
misunderstanding, Jay. No, what I'm not saying, no, the teachings, the stuff which I showed you, that's not found in all religions. Okay, let's pull up the verse one more time just so we can make it clear. What was the verse? You First Corinthians something 15:14.
1541.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I want to show you that let's take a look and see if this is really proving that Paul was a true prophet, meaning he had this scientific knowledge. Okay, so let's look at the verse. And so let me kill this. There is one glory, the sun, and another glory of the moon, and it's just talking about how glorious the sun and the moon are. And then there's another glory, which is the stars. All he's saying is these things are wonderful. Now, this is not talking about any type of scientific fact. Okay. Now, what
What
did you
about
say? Yeah.
1:7?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Let me grant you that this verse is weak, but what about Timothy, 1:7, where
Okay.
it says about the spirit of fear?
First Timothy 1:7.
1 Timothy 7, I guess, where it
No.
talks about, for God has not given you a spirit of fear. That's how the verse starts. For God has not given you a spirit of fear.
Okay. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So, okay, that's my point. If you look, when you say that your spirit of fear, meaning this just doesn't describe who you are, that's fine. But that's kind of common sense, wouldn't you agree? And it's just kind of like all religions teach something like be good, be happy, don't be sad. I mean, you'll find these things in all religions. So this does not prove that he had understanding of a scientific fact about the harm that fear actually, when you live in fear all the time, let's just say, oops, when you live in fear all the time, of course, that's bad for you, but that's kind of common knowledge. Number one, it's found in all religions. So, Ahmed, can you just agree that doesn't prove that Paul is a true prophet, that he had truly the scientific knowledge that we have today in the scientific journals about fear? Can you agree? Can we at least make that assumption?
Well, if you look at it from a scientific perspective only, which the Bible doesn't claim it's a scientific book, it's not.
What?
Oh yeah, Samuel 15:3. Yeah, I saw this image
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, we'll get into this, but I want to let's first finish up and agree that look, this is not an evidence for Paul. I mean, to say things like "don't be sad," "don't be," "don't be depressed." All religions teach these things. Do you understand that?
Let
Don't live in
me.
fear. Don't be sad.
Okay then.
Don't be. Yeah.
You know what? Okay then. For the sake of the conversation, let me grant you that these verses are vague.
Okay.
However,
Give us.
though, how can you prove that Paul is a false prophet,
Okay. Well,
not
first of all,
not not a true prophet?
yeah, yeah. So Ahmed, the problem is like if I were to claim nobody is a true by default, everybody is a false prophet. Like if I were to claim to be a prophet, I don't have to, you have to automatically reject me because I didn't present any proof. So the default position is everybody is a false prophet unless they show some evidence to the contrary. So I guess the question now is what evidence can you show that Paul was a true prophet?
Well, scientifically, if you ask me, I already gave you the verses, but you
But you
said that
just
I was
said it's
reading
vague.
into it.
It's vague. Yeah.
Fake, again, long stretch, but as a Muslim, how would you think about Paul? Like, was Paul able to corrupt the true message of Jesus as a false
Yeah.
prophet?
Yeah, he was a like I told you, the evidence my point was this. There's no evidence for the prophethood of Paul and his claims, but we have plenty of evidence that he is not a true prophet. And one of the evidences is he brought 2,000 years of suffering and violence and persecution into the world. This is the evidence that he's a false prophet.
Okay. Uh, Now, before we start on going to the other topics, I would just give you a reminder that try using arguments that are not destructive towards Islam. Like,
Why?
uh,
I want to
give
destroy
an argument.
Islam. No, no,
Like
no. I want to
you
destroy
said
Islam.
Paul about persecution, right?
Yes, yes.
But this is my friendly advice. This is my friendly advice. You said Paul brought persecution and misery towards the
Mhm.
Jews. But however, though, that is a self-destructive argument for Islam. So
But
it's
I
better
want
if
to
you.
destroy Ahmed. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I'm telling you the same thing. Like for it took about an hour, and I'm literally repeating the same thing over again to you. And it's like you don't want to understand. If it is true for Islam, I want to destroy Islam. So yes, I want to use destructive arguments that will also destroy Islam. So that now let's take a pause here, and I want you to talk to me and tell me why is it you refuse to understand this?
Okay, so you gave me a challenge
Yeah.
in the emails. I read all of them. Sorry for replying late to one of your emails. You told me that if I give you a a verse from the Quran where Allah commands His people, or commands
Mhm.
His followers to act like psychopaths or commit
Yes.
war crimes, or
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Yes.
basically around those lines, I believe Islam. You,
Sure.
you said
Yeah.
it, don't you?
I've been telling you that for like almost 2 hours to the point I got so tired that I'm like, you know what, this guy doesn't want to listen to me, and that's a problem, Ahmed. I just feel like there's some things in your head where you just don't want to listen to it. You block it out, and you don't seem to understand this. That if Islam is the same, so the here's what's happening here. You it's like you understand that there's no evidence for Paul, but yet you somehow let him go get away with it. You understand that yes, Paul is brought a terrible evil into the world. You understand that, but you're like, it's okay because Islam is worse. So, but where your mistake in your brain and your thinking is, it could
No.
be. No, hold on,
My
let me
argument
finish. Let
is
me finish.
not that
It could
it's
be Ahmed.
my
Let me
argument
finish the
is
point.
not that. Go ahead. My argument
You-
is not that it's okay. My argument is that if you attack Paul on a certain criteria, you do more damage to yourself than to the Christian person when you attack
And
Paul.
since you've been responded to 100 times with a silly argument, which has been refuted. I'm saying, good. I want to destroy both religions if it's true. And it seems like you don't want to understand that. So
Well,
stop
it
saying this,
is.
Ahmed.
It is already destroyed because, well,
Okay.
when the Quran, which is aligned with science, when it
Okay. Let's get.
says that Allah is the true followers of Jesus,
We
and
okay.
when
We
we
I
say
oh whoa 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 whoa
Paul was
Ahmed,
aided
Ahmed.
by Allah to corrupt
We can't. Okay.
Christianity,
Okay.
so
Ahmed.
how can Paul be a false prophet if he
Okay.
was
Ahmed.
aided?
We have a communication problem. Okay. Look, I am here to have an intelligent discussion with you. Here's how we
Me
have an.
too. Me
Okay.
too.
Here's what
My
you did.
approach,
Okay.
my
Oh, don't
approach
interrupt. Don't interrupt. Look, I'm
more
gonna let me talk.
theological.
Let me talk. Let me talk. We are not going to go back to the whole issue about the disciples of Jesus because here's how we have an intelligent discussion. Okay.
No, because look,
Hold on,
there's a
stop, stop.
problem.
No
Please,
interrupting.
please,
No. Okay,
please,
let's
come
do
on.
2 minutes back and forth. 2 minutes back and forth. I'm gonna start my
There's
timer.
a flaw. There's a
No,
problem. You claim
no,
that Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John and Paul were
no.
not the true disciples of Jesus. You're
Let's get
making this
timer.
claim, right? So prove it. Who are the true followers of Jesus? That's a huge gap in the narrative. It's
Okay, but
confusing.
Ahmed, we're having a very big problem here and we need to fix it first. Okay, it's called communication. And you and I are not communicating, and we're going to talk about communication first. Okay, so let me get my timer. I'm going to start my timer here. Unfortunately, I have my oh, you know what? Well, here's what I'll do. I'll put the timer right over here inside the okay, stopwatch. We need to talk about communication first. Okay, I'm gonna start my stopwatch. Okay, I'm gonna take 2 minutes. When you said the whole thing about the Quran and the disciples of Jesus, I'm like, good, let's bring that up. And so I provided a response to that. So you've got an argument, then you've got a rebuttal. Okay. So now my expectation now, if we're going to have an intelligent discussion, is you've got to respond to my rebuttal. Okay. But you didn't. You went right back to the original argument. That proves we're not communicating. So when you said, look, you are the disciples, now I responded to you yesterday. I shared my screen, went through verses, and it's like it went over your head. So if we are going to have an intelligent discussion, Ahmed, you can't you know you got to go with the flow. Do you know what that means? Go with the flow of the argument. So like if you raise an argument and then let's say I raise an argument and then you respond to that. And then I raise the same argument again. Do you see how frustrating that would be for you? You'd be like, "What? I just responded to you, dude." So please, I'm going to turn it over to you and I want you to tell me what did you understand from my refutation of what you presented regarding the disciples.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, as far as I remember, uh, when I brought up the argument of, Surah Saf, Ayah 14, who are the true followers of Jesus, you said that basically during that time, you said this is your refutation. You can go look it up. You said there were basically three religions
Mm-hmm.
at that time. There was the Jews, Judaism. There was Islam. You said,
Mm-hmm.
and there was Christianity.
Right.
Now, the thing is, you know, this was your refutation, and the problem with that is what I find the problem with that is that if you read the Surah Saf in context, right? You read the whole passage. Nowhere does it say, or even in the Quran, nowhere does it say that there were three religions at the time when Jesus was
Mm-hmm.
raised up, whether to heaven or, after the resurrection. It doesn't say the Quran or the Hadith. Even you can go to the tafsirs, Tafsir al-Qurtubi and Maududi. You can go there. None of them say that there were three religions, and there was Islam there, and there was Christianity, and there was Judaism. But however, though, let's assume
Mm-hmm.
let's assume that yes, there were three religions, even though the Quran, Hadith, or the Tafsirs don't say this. Let's Let me grant you your refutation that there were three religions. After the the resurrection of Jesus, or well, after Jesus was raised up, according to Islam, we saw historically speaking, we saw a rise of Christianity as we know it today. We
Okay.
saw rise of the
Yes.
manuscript. Yeah, we saw the rise of Christianity all throughout Rome, all throughout the Middle East. So even if there were three religions, Allah, according to your reputation, I'm sorry, but Allah still ended up aiding the wrong people, because the
Mhm.
people He ended up aiding were the ones who were Trinitarians, who believed
Okay.
Jesus was God.
I think that's time. That's time. Okay, so let me start. Yeah. Oh, by the way, here's a clock right over here. You could kind of see it's like actually I gave you 2 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah,
Thank you.
okay, that's fine. Let me answer some of that. The Quran does identify them, okay, as Muslims. So you have the Jews, children of Israel, number one. Then you have the Muslims. Okay, now let's read this. They and so and how wait, is my timer up? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get my timer. Sorry about that. Okay. And how I inspired the disciples, believe in me and my messenger. They declared, we believe and bear witness that we fully submit to Allah. That's an interpretation. The actual word, if you can read Arabic, right? The actual word there is Muslims. We are Muslims. And some translations say we are Muslims. So
Yeah,
when you
no, Muslimin.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, so my point to you here is that, you know, there are three religions, and then you have the Christians. Okay, so the Quran does, and not only that, but the Quran also states that the disciples of Jesus, they also believed in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now you said, but God aided the wrong group. No, there's the Quran doesn't state that the Quran aided the Christians. The Quran stated we aided the Muslims. Okay. Now, how did we help them? They became uppermost. The word is uppermost. As I pointed out to you, they saved Jesus from the crucifixion. Okay, so which is very important in Christianity because you know let me show you the verse where it states inside the Bible that if Jesus was not crucified, our faith is in vain. All right, so crucifixion is important to Christianity. Where is it? Can't find the Bible verse. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. And if Christ and if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is in vain and your faith is in vain. And that's exactly what happened. Jesus was saved from crucifixion. So now they became uppermost. And then finally, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came because the disciples of Jesus, let me see how much time I got. Oh, that's my 2 minutes. Also believe in Prophet Muhammad. Go ahead.
No. A really interesting explanation from you right there. The Quran states that the disciples of Jesus, or the people who were the followers of Jesus, they believed in Allah, right?
They were no,
Now,
the
as
Quran
I said
identified the
before,
Muslims. I'm sorry. Yeah.
yeah, as I said before, let me grant you the argument that okay, for the sake of conversation, for the sake of theology, let's grant you the argument that yes, there were three religions. When Jesus was raised up to heaven, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. In the next coming uh, 200 years, or not even 200 years, like 400 years, 500 years, you see the rise, the historical rise. You see the history of the empires, and you see this new religion emerging. And the people who followed this religion, they didn't claim that they were following Allah. If you go into the history, and I know you do not adhere to the church history, but this is just a neutral argument. If you look at the history, you see the rise and spread of Christianity. See it in Ethiopia. You see it all throughout Middle East. Apostle Thomas, who doubted that Jesus was resurrected, he came all the way to India and preached the message of the gospel. And all this was happening before Prophet Muhammad even came. So, if you let me just grant you the argument, there were three religions. You showed me the verse. We both know. If even if there were three religions, the uppermost religion you see throughout history from like 10 AD all the way to 600 AD until Prophet Muhammad.
Oh, okay, okay.
The
It's your time. Yeah, I understand your point. I understand your point. Let me find my
yeah, go
stopwatch here. Okay, yeah, that's nobody is denying that there was some success over there, and the church, got some. The Christians got some success. True, and as I explained to you last time, both were successful. The Christians were successful, and the Muslims were successful. Both were successful. That's how I would answer that. So nobody is denying the success you're talking about. But what I think you're not seeing is, oh, okay, well, our side is successful too. And remember, the ultimate success of the disciples was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the Quran stated that they believed in a prophet called Ahmed. So the disciples believed in not just Prophet Isa, Jesus, but the disciples also believed in Prophet Muhammad. So that is what all the tafsirs, what you are basically, read, is telling you, that the success, the greatest, there's actually many different successes that where you could say they've prevailed, is in the final culmination of the prophet they believed was going to come, name Ahmad, which is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So sure, your prophet is successful, our prophet is also successful. I mean, you could say there's success going across the board, but the big mistake you're making here, Ahmed, is that when asked about your prophet, you had to go to the Quran.
yeah, because my approach is
Hold on,
theological.
let me stop. Let me stop. Let me take my time. I got 30 seconds. That's a mistake, Ahmed. Uh, Paul is supposed to be proven to be true with, or I mean, without the Quran. You've got to show evidence for his prophethood without any other appeal to Buddhism, or, well, your book tells you to follow him or something like that. I mean, yeah, it's a good argument if you want to debate with Muslims about it, and that's fine but there also needs to be evidence for his prophethood. So my question for you is, can you show evidence outside of the Quran for Paul?
Well, can I speak now?
Yeah, yeah, sure. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, if you look at church history, you see that the teachings of Paul was in line with the disciples of Jesus. And again, I know that you don't believe in those disciples, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. But if you look at church history, you look at the coming of Paul. He described faith and works, and a lot of what he said was in line with the disciples. And on many places, like Acts, the disciples agreed with Paul. They believed in what he saw, and his teachings were not only in line with what Jesus taught, according to the church history, but it was also informative, and it helped uh, structure the church furthermore. So yeah, and if he was a false prophet, again, uh, according to Jesus himself, I'm forgetting the verse of the New Testament, but Jesus said that if a prophet comes, if a true prophet comes to you after me, he would confirm what is with you. He would confirm the previous, you know, the previous things, all that I have taught to you. And I know that you do not, believe in the New Testament, and you say it's the writings of people, but historically and according to church history, if you look at the teachings of Jesus, he said that, hey, if a prophet comes to you that contradicts what I taught you, that's a red flag. But if someone comes to you, if someone comes to help you, and he's in line with what I taught you people, and he helps you people, then that's a green flag. So basically, what Paul was basically a green flag. Well, I know you don't believe that, but because he was in line with what Jesus taught his disciples.
Hmm.
Because if you look at the gospel, and if I have more time, I'm gonna
Okay.
speak more.
Yeah. If what
Yeah,
you're saying is true, it would be a good point. All right. It would be, I wouldn't, you could say it would be a positive point. Okay. If what you're saying is true. But the problem is you're just saying, okay, because the Bible, read the Bible, Nadir. It's the Bible. He agrees with everything in the Bible. The New Testament says it. He agrees with everything in the New Testament. Here's the problem with that argument. Number one, there's many, and you knew there were problems because you say, I know you don't accept this, Nadir, because you knew there's no evidence. You see, the problem is there is no evidence that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are written by those people. Number one. Second assumption you're making, okay? And this is the difference between Islam and Christianity. In Christianity, it is a fake religion. FAIC. It's an acronym I want you to understand. False assumption of people who are ignorant and credulous. You're just and it's not that you're making one false assumption. It's a lot of false assumptions. Let's count with me. Number one false assumption that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were really written by the disciples. You can't prove that. Second false assumption that this church, which you are talking about, a bunch of kooks and quacks, remember we talked about that these were truly the church which Jesus endorsed, or that no. So this is called circular reasoning. These kooks and quacks of the Roman Empire, okay, which you are following, these are all the followers of a prophet named Paul. So of course, it's like saying, why is Muhammad a true prophet? Well, Sahaba keh diya. Would you believe in that? Of course, his followers are going to say these things. So this is called circular reasoning. You're just arguing in a circle. There's no so quoting the disciples. Sorry, quoting the followers of Paul as being authoritative. Why is so? What you're saying is, why is Paul true? Because his followers said so. That's your argument. So I hope you can address these logical fallacies, which I pointed out. Go ahead.
thank you so much. Uh, the most concise, and I would say the most easiest way to refute your claim is that a person should go ahead and look at the lives of the early church fathers and the disciples. There
Okay.
are biographies. Like, this is really easy. For example, you find a historical document, you find a biography of, let's say, John. Now, how do you know that this guy, this John, how do you know that this guy was a follower of Jesus, or this guy walked along with Jesus or talked with Jesus? Well, you open the historical document or the scrolls or whatever they have. You read the history. You see, oh yeah, there we go. That's John, and there you go. He's with
Uh,
Jesus. He's walking with Jesus.
I'm
Doing
confused.
everything
I'm sorry.
he said.
I don't understand what you're saying. Can you
Let me,
explain this
please
again to me?
let me let me let me explain.
Yeah.
No, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay.
So the easiest way to refute all your basically these arguments is that just look at the history. If you do not want to look at the church history, well, just look at the historical Roman history. As a whole, was there a person named Jesus? Yes, there was a person named Jesus. Was he from Nazareth? Yes, he was from Nazareth. Did he had 12 followers? Yeah, he had 12 followers. So what were their names? Look at the history. You don't believe in the church. You don't believe in the gospel writers. You call them anonymous. A great argument made by Part3, who also says that Islam is false. Again, that is a self-destructive argument, so let's not go there. But my this is so basic.
Okay. Okay.
Just
So let
look
me.
at
Okay.
his,
That's your 2 minutes. Let me start my 2 minutes.
look
Okay.
at
So
the
I am
account of
okay.
people.
Yeah. I'm looking at those accounts, and it's all okay. So basically, Doctor, I think I've shown you these articles. Richard Carrier wrote an article about the
Oh
kooks
yeah,
and
one
quacks.
thing about Richard Carrier.
Yeah,
You know,
no, no,
I'm
let's
sorry
not
to cut
attack.
you
Well,
off.
let me take about 2 minutes. Let me take about 2 minutes here, real quick.
One thing about
Okay.
Richard Carrier, I looked
Yeah.
into him,
Yeah.
and he says that Jesus was a mythological being.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, he denies Jesus not only as God but also as a prophet. He says that, you know, the famous word you repeat from him, that these are all
Yeah.
mythologies and these are just all kooks and quacks made by the
Yeah. Kooks and
people,
quacks.
by the
Yeah.
early people. He denies Jesus as a whole. This is Richard Carrier.
That's
So, you
fine.
know, just
He's
go
still
look
a
into him
scholar.
further.
He's still a
So
great
it's
scholar. Yes.
him. The thing is, the same people, the
Okay.
same
Okay.
person
Okay.
you're
Let me take my
appealing
2 minutes,
to,
Ahmed.
the
Let me
same
take my
person
two
you're
minutes,
appealing to also says that
Ahmed.
Islam
This is
is
my 2 minutes.
false.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the
Stop.
thing is,
I'm
that
gonna
is
put
what
you on
I'm
mute.
trying to tell you.
I'm gonna put you on
I'm
mute. If
giving
you're
you
not
the
gonna
church
debate, if
history.
you're
I'm telling you
okay.
to look into the church history,
Okay.
right?
I'm
But
looking
you're
into
giving
your.
me the
Okay.
arguments of people who are agnostic,
Okay, Ahmed. Let's
who not
time out.
only say that the
Okay.
Christianity is false, they
You don't
also
want
say
to.
Islam
Okay.
is false. So when
Okay.
you're attacking me and my
Okay.
faith with those arguments, which can be refuted by looking simply at history itself, you are
Okay.
also destroying your own religion because there is
Okay.
Islamic history. And if I was Richard Carrier,
Hey, listen. You're
if
not
I
going to
was
listen to
Mark
me,
Ehrman,
Ahmed.
or if I was
Ahmed, you're
Richard
not going to
Carrier,
listen. This is
I
not your
would
time
ask
to talk.
you, hey Nader,
Okay.
can you tell me who
Nobody's
was the
listen. You
writer of Surah Al-Baqarah,
no. What you're
or
doing is
who was
wrong,
the true
Ahmed.
follower of Muhammad?
Ahmed, we can't have a talk like we can't have a discussion like this. Okay, when you just rattle off, you don't want to follow the rules of the discussion. That's wrong. So let's take a time out. You and I need to talk about how we're going to conduct this discussion. Okay, nothing you have said is people are gonna, we're going to, this is I guess my point is this. This is not the way we have an intelligent discussion. When you know you have a 2 minute time limit, it's my time, and you decide, you know what, I'm not going to give him his 2 minutes. I'm going to force my point on everybody here today. That's not the right way to have a discussion. Okay, you need to respect the rules of this discussion, Ahmed. Okay, and and please follow. Now I'm going to take just 2 minutes, and I'm going to address this issue about the you got. It's very vague. I'm still trying to, you could say, register, comprehend what you're talking about. It's like you're sending us on a wild goose chase to go look over here. It's in the history. It's over here. The disciples said this. Okay, so let's look at these church fathers. Okay, you said if you just look at them, and you will see that they are true or something like that. Okay. So the question here is, how can we prove that these church fathers are really legitimate outside of the whatever Islam says? Okay. Because at this point, what Islam says is irrelevant. Okay, let's look at the church history. All right. Here is what we have. The church history raises a lot of problems. I don't think it solves problems. Okay, for you. Here's the first problem. Okay. There were many churches. It wasn't just the Church of Paul. Here is another church called the Ebionite Church. The Ebionites viewed Paul as an apostle, rejected his writings. Okay, actually, they were actually against Paul. So okay, there's one church. Secondly, um, all these churches, you had so many churches that came after Jesus, all claim to have apostolic authority. All right. So this is something which all Christians believe in, whether it's Richard Carrier, whether it's Dr. Bart Ehrman, or whatever Christian, we all accept this history. So just because they claimed, oh, by the way, I got this from John, or I got this from Matthew, that doesn't prove anything, because everybody's making these claims. Okay. Secondly, now let's look at let's look at Papias. Okay. So Papias actually was one of the church fathers, and he basically quoted things which, you could say is not found in our New Testament. If I can find Papias, and I can't find him.
Yeah, Papias was connected to Matthew.
That's his claim. See, that's what you're not understanding. He claimed to be connected to Matthew. And if that's the case, then he never talked about a gospel of Matthew. And he quoted things which were not found in any of the Bible. So how can we take Papias as being reliable? I mean, just because he claims something when the evidence shows he's not. Go ahead.
So again, uh, now if you were an atheist or an agnostic, this would take a really different turn, right? Because as an atheist or an agnostic, they not only do they find, and that's okay, in a way, not only do they find, what do we say, gaps in church history, but they also find gaps in all religions. They raise questions about all religions. However, though, as a Muslim apologist, there are some things that you need to adhere to. For example, if you have a criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, as a Muslim, you know, you go back to the history of Islam and you see that the Quran was revealed throughout a long time to Prophet Muhammad, and after his death, uh, it was after his death, 20 years after his death, the Quran was compiled finally into a book by the third Caliph Uthman. Because of the early wars, a lot of people who were hafizun, who knew the Quran by heart, they were dying, and the Caliph Uthman said that, hey, we cannot risk for this book to be lost, and we need to compile it into a book. So you have Islamic history, the life of Prophet Muhammad, the life of his followers, the life of the four rightly guided caliphs. You have your Islamic history. Just like so, we have our church history. And just like in Islamic history, a lot of people claimed to be prophets, and there were a lot of misconceptions. For example, how did the people kill Uthman, the third caliph, or Musallima bin Kazab, who was there at the time of Prophet? He was saying, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophet. You have all these false people with their false teachings, right, in Islamic history. And the Islamic history is clear about it. Yes, that there were these people. Yet you still believe that the Quran is completely the true word of Allah, the true word of God, which was revealed to Muhammad. Just like so, we have our church history. And even in our church history, a lot of people were heretics and they claimed a lot of stuff which Jesus didn't teach, right? And well, what happened eventually is that they were condemned. And the true followings of Jesus, or well, the true gospel, which we
Okay, I
have
think that's your
today,
time. That's your time. Okay, so let me
you
let me take my two
think,
minutes. Yeah. So
yeah,
you
go ahead.
want once again, the question is, how can you believe in your book without appealing to Uthman or anything to do with Islam? That's what you're being asked, and it's like you cannot do this. So let me get back to you. You claim that. I mean, let's look at these church fathers to see if they were really truthful in what they claimed. Okay. So if I'm going to share maybe you might not know this fact of church history. And it looks like you were not able to refute the arguments. So that's why you started talking about Islam, Omar. How do you believe in your own religion? Okay, this is called the two quo fallacy. Okay, what about you? What about your religion? Ahmed, you got to be able to prove these things about Christianity without saying, "What about your religion, huh?" I mean, what's in your book? You got to be able to prove it without that. That's what we're asking if you're able to. And it looks like you're saying, "No, I can't." If I look at the holes, and you did admit there's holes in the narrative of what you're saying, well, okay, your book has holes too. I mean, that's pretty much what you're saying here. So let's take a look at Papias here, okay? This is you claiming that these are the people that you said look at their history. Look at their history. Okay. Let's look at the history. Papias said, I did not think I did not think that information from books would help me so much as the utterance of the living voice. This is from Papias. Okay? Wait a second. That's a contradiction. You're supposed to have the Gospel of Matthew. You got Gospel of John. You've got these Gospels. What do you mean don't follow any books? So, okay, I'm doing you first. You said, look at the history, look at these people and their lives and how they lived. Okay, I'm seeing this. He states that he also ascribes things to Jesus which Jesus never said. Apparently, in our books, he states that the fact that Judas' head bloated to greater than the width of a wagon trail, and his eyes were lost. This is not found in our book. And he ascribed many false teachings. So my 2 minutes is up. So I want you to talk about why we should trust Papias, not Omer, Uthman, or anything like that. Go ahead.
First of all, just a small question. Uh, did you make these articles?
These are quotations. I can't find my actual articles, but I can copy this and show you the actual article for it if you like. It's all over the
I
internet.
would
Yeah,
love to
I'm sorry.
see.
Yeah, I'll find it for you. Papias and his. There you go. Yeah. So you can here's one here's I should have made a screenshot of this, and I think I did, but I can't find it anymore. Or this is actually I'll have to find my my references, but all my references which I'm quoting are accurate. There, this is the actual.
You can screenshot it and email me if you want
Yeah,
later on.
I don't know what I was doing. I lost all my notes here. I'll let me look for it. I thought I had it in here. But okay, you keep going though. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I, what I was about to say is that there is a context of Papaya saying this, that believing in that having a someone to follow as a whole in reality is better than reading books. There's a context to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Papias, if you look at church history, he was connected to Matthew. I believe he was a student, and when he was talking about that, you know, being under someone's teaching and under someone's discipleship is better than reading books. There's a context to that, and that's the context.
What?
And the context is that Papias is saying that it's better if you are under someone's discipleship because it's more personal. You can see that person, you can talk with that person instead of just reading books. And that's the context behind,
But okay, let me
Papias.
take my that's let me take my time. Okay, so the problem is you're just making excuses, you're just making assumptions. That what needs to be said here is this is a gospel of Matthew, number 1. Number 2.
No, I would, what I would
Hold on a
do
second.
is that
Let me take my 2 minutes.
I would
Hold on.
forward you,
Um, Ahmed,
the
let me
article
take
or
my
the
2
passage,
minutes. Uh,
which I'm trying to quote.
Okay, Ahmed, let me take my 2
Yeah.
minutes, please. So this is, I mean, this is you're just making some bizarre excuses when he says I did not think that information from books would help me so much that the utterance of the living and surviving voice. So he doesn't follow any gospel here. Okay. He said again, I did not think that the information from books, he doesn't believe in information from books, okay, would help me so much as the utterance of the living. So he's thinking, so he believes in this type of living, surviving voice of somebody, something. But my point here, he never stated that he believed in a gospel of Matthew. He never said these things, that he had a gospel and it was written by Matthew. All right. So he never made these claims. And so he also quoted things saying Jesus said things which he didn't say. So you did not address his false statements. He stated that the fact that Judas had bloated to a greater to the width of a wagon trail, and his eyes lost his flesh. It goes on this bizarre story, and he said Jesus said these things. That's not true. So I guess, and he's recorded as citing a part of 2 Baruch and saying Jesus said these things. So there's a lot of things. And this Papias, you are telling me we should trust this guy who's got all these problems? I need you to really not just make up assumptions and things off the top of your head. Oh, it's just a context. I need you to tell me why we should trust him. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I already told you what he meant. But like you said, he didn't believe in a gospel of Matthew, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is I want you to clarify why this saying of him saying, like, why this quote of Papias saying that I didn't know that, I would receive information from the books, or along those lines. Why would it dismantle the facts that Matthew wrote Matthew, or that Papias was an early church father who was connected to Matthew? Why would his saying, which is so vague, and he's not specifying a certain book, he's not specifying. He says, I didn't know I would get this much, I would get information from the books. We don't know which books he's talking about. This is really vague again. And in contextual meaning, you look at it, he thinks that having a personal disciple, a personal teacher, is better than just reading books in general. He doesn't specify if it was the gospel or any gospel. He just says books. And again, the same person, the same church father you're appealing to, Papias, says a lot of other stuff you won't agree with, like Jesus' divinity. Go look at his teachings, Papias' teachings, early church fathers. This is a Catholic website, many other websites, but the same person again you're appealing to says something in a different context, where Papias says, "Oh, I never knew that I would get this much information out of books. You know, it's better for me, or it was better for me
Okay, I
to
think it's for two
follow
minutes.
personally."
Okay, well,
Yeah.
we can agree. It looks like we can agree that if we, and that doesn't. This also call you didn't address a problem of him quoting fabricated stories, which is not found in our gospels. Okay, which we have. He has fabricated stories in there. But I think we can. You're just making assumptions. Well, I think maybe here's what he might probably have meant. The problem here is he should have said, "Look, I have the Gospel of Matthew. I'm just like I've Quran. I read Quran every day. This is if it's and then not only that, but this is supposedly God's word, and he doesn't testify to any of this. So okay, Cholo, Papias is gone. You cannot use Papias as any evidence to show that you've got the true church or you've got the true gospels. That's for sure. So I think you and I can agree on that with all the problems which he has. So the next question comes, what the first time we really hear about Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Luke, the Gospel of John, it comes about 100 years after when they were written. This is what all Christians, and even whether it's Richard Carrier or whoever it is, we all agree on this. So why is it that the first and who did it come with? It came with one of the church fathers. I forget his name. Oh boy, my mind's not working. So my point to you is, what in the heck is going on here? That for 100 years, nobody has ever heard of a Gospel of Matthew, Gospel of Luke, Gospel of John. And secondly, when you look at who wrote these books, he's very, very intelligent, high level Greek. But the disciples of Jesus, I mean, if what we know about them from the Gospels, they didn't have this level of education and they didn't speak Greek. So it's like, who wrote these books? I guess so. These are the two questions I have for you. Do you remember? Just to let you know what they are again? Is boy, I'm forgetting. The first question is, how do you explain the fact? Oh, the first question is, the first time we hear about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John comes from 100 years after they were written. Okay. Secondly, the second problem which you need to ask is, when we look at who wrote them, it looks like two different people wrote these books. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, you made the claim that we got to know about Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John 100 years later after Jesus. But again,
No.
it's a self-destructive argument, but let's just leave it for now. You forgot about a bunch of things. You forgot about the Septuagint. You forgot about the Codex Sinaiticus. You forgot about the Synoptic Gospels, which were written from around 50 to 60 AD, like within the first century, before 100 years. Your 100 first century claim that, oh, after 100 years we got to know that. No, it's not true. The thing is, in the first century, if you look at history, which I assume you look or you don't, we have the Codex Sinaiticus, we have the Septuagint, we have the Synoptic Gospels, and they are plural Gospels. However, though, the reason why these Gospels were standardized and their names were, well, their names were finally proclaimed that who wrote these Gospels is because if you look at history, the first century after the resurrection and when Jesus was raised up into heaven, within the first century or even the second century, Rome, Christians were subjugated, they were subdued, they weren't allowed from the Jews and the Romans, they weren't allowed to make their churches or their what do you call their councils or whatever. So everything was scattered. They had the teachings, they had the manuscripts. We have like 5,000 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament, and
Okay.
we had 10,000
Okay.
Latin manuscripts.
That's for 2 minutes. Let me take my
Yeah,
2 minutes
it
here.
was all
Okay.
scattered.
So yeah.
So the
So my
reason,
hold on, Ahmed. Just my two
finish my
minutes.
point.
Okay.
Let me just finish my point. The
Yeah.
reason why you see the standardization and the canonization of the Gospels and the names Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John after 100 years is because there was finally order. After 100 years, the Christians finally had order because they were all scattered within the first century. Go ahead.
Okay. There's no evidence for what you're talking about.
All
First, you
self-destructive
okay.
movements.
Okay. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
watching.
Okay. We've already
Once
talked
I
about
bring
that.
up Islam,
Ahmed.
look, once
Ahmed.
I
You
bring up
okay?
your own history,
Ahmed. Let's
once
be
I bring
honest.
up your own history,
Stop. Stop.
everything's going to fall. Go ahead.
Okay. Stop. Stop. Okay. First of all, you denied that these you seem to have a misunderstanding. It's one the first time we hear about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, these gospels, it's 100 years after these books have been written, allegedly.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So the first time we hear about that there's gospel of Matthew, gospel of Luke, gospel of John, it's about 100 years after they were written. Okay. So and then you come up with some bizarre explanation for why that was. Well, we just had to have the
No, you
order.
don't have
Okay,
to.
no
You don't have
interrupting.
to
No,
believe me.
no
Just go look
interrupting,
at the
please.
history of Rome,
Yeah. Okay.
the
Please.
spread of Christianity.
No interrupting, please. So you came up with some bizarre excuse for this that, oh, well, you see, they just didn't have orders or something like that. No. Well, first of
That's
all,
true.
I do. Okay. I would like for you to show me evidence for what you're talking about. Okay. Because this is complete nonsense. Now, when you, first of all,
Go on to Google.
hold on a second.
Go on to
No,
Google
no
and
interrupting.
write
Ahmed.
first
Ahmed.
century after the
Ahmed.
resurrection of Jesus.
Okay, Ahmed, please, no interrupting. Okay, so that's why I pointed you to the debate between Dr. Bart Ehrman and the other gentleman. Boy, I'm forgetting his name. My memory is so bad. But these are, and so what they agreed on is that nothing of what you're talking about exists. They all agreed upon that. Not only that, but with other Christian scholars as well. All right, now let's fact check this. We're going to fact check what you're saying in just a minute here. They all agreed that the books were that well what in fact the Christian stated very clearly that and I made you look at the clip so that you can confirm. He says we cannot prove authenticity of the gospels that or authorship of the gospels. He said it. We cannot prove it, but rather it's just the best explanation for the facts. So so there, but now I want to do a fact check on you. Something about like they did not ascribe Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John to these books because they did not have orders. Where can I find that reference? Can you guide me?
Well, again, the best guidance, just like uh, go ahead and type the standardization of the Gospels and go ahead and type that, or you can type the first century and the subjugation of the early Christians. You can type
Okay.
that also. So
Okay.
you
So
might get a perspective, you might understand that why these gospels took so long to come out into the light,
okay. Okay.
standardized,
Show me the
scrutinized.
article of what you're talking
Yeah.
about. You have to guide me. Show me the reference.
You want me to show you the exact reference?
Yes.
Look into the history of the early church fathers.
Well, okay.
Especially,
Okay. Hold on. What
I
should I
want
type?
you to
History
look at
of.
the, go, 1 second. Look at the history of Augustine, Saint Augustine.
Okay.
Yeah, Augustine or Ignatius or
Wait a
Clement of
second. This
Rome.
guy was born almost 300 years, 350 years after Jesus. How is this guy going to help us out?
Go to Ignatius.
Okay. History of Ignatius.
Ignatius.
Oh, that's the person who finally said, who talked about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Yes. History of Ignatius.
Yeah, Ignatius and Polycarp were direct disciples of John.
No,
Sorry
that's what
for
they
interrupting
claimed.
you
Hold on a
earlier.
second. That's what they claimed. Okay, history of Ignatius. What do you want me to see? Show me the reference for what you're talking about. You need to guide me. What are you talking about?
Well, for the last hour and 6 minutes, I'm telling you that if you do not believe their claims, look at their history, their lives, their biographies. It's all
Okay,
over
I'm
the internet.
looking.
You don't need
I
to
just did.
ask me to look at them. You're an educated person. You can read them yourself.
Okay, I did with Papias, and he turned out to be a fraud. So now we're doing. Look, you
Oh,
said
wait,
that
wait.
somehow.
No, no.
Yeah,
Wait a
yeah.
second. So if one person, first of all, let me grant you the fact that one person came out to be a fraud. So, for example, if Musallima bin Kazab came out to be a fraud, does that mean everyone is a fraud? Muhammad
No, of course
Uthman?
not. Of course not. Of course not.
No, your own criteria is not living up to your own standard. Come on, man. This is church
Okay,
history, just
okay.
like
Wait
Islamic
a second.
history. You adhere
This
to it, you know the truth. You do
You're
not,
supposed to
you
guide me
become
here.
an
Where's your
atheist or
references?
agnostic.
Where's your references, Ahmed? You're supposed to guide me. You are saying that they had orders not to call it Matthew, Mark, the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Luke, Gospel of John. Where is any of the stuff you're talking about? I mean, I need a reference for that. Can you show it to me?
Look at the biography of Ignatius.
Biography
I
of
would
Ignatius.
recommend you that. Biography of Ignatius or the biography of Polycarp.
Okay, biography of Ignatius. Okay. Um, or let's. Okay, can you guide me? I mean, you need to show me where this reference is.
Well, I would email you the exact or I would I can
Okay.
email you the exact passage in his life
Okay.
where he was a disciple of John. Polycarp and Ignatius both, by the way, they were both
Wait a second.
disciples
Wait a
of John.
second. Do you understand, Ahmed, that this, Polycarp, he claimed to be a disciple of John, but everybody claimed those things. Do you understand that?
Yeah, and that's why I asked you to look up his biography. But
Okay,
again,
let's
his
do Polycarp.
biography is really long, and
Biography of
if you
Polycarp.
start looking it up right now, it would take so much time. But
Okay,
you look it up.
okay.
If you have a
What,
question, right,
where
you
he
want
claimed
to
to be
find
a,
where did John actually
yeah, but
meet
even, let's just
Ignatius, or
assume
is
he's
it just
true.
a fluke? Is it just a lie? You
Okay,
have to
yeah.
search it up.
Okay, look, Ahmed, let's just assume that he was true. Polycarp was a disciple of John. Let's just assume. Even if what he was saying was true, it wouldn't prove anything because disciples can also go back, can go rogue. They can follow like Musaylama al-Kadab. Some of the Sahaba followed Musaylama. So let's hypothetically say that Polycarp was a true disciple. I mean, just let's say he was a disciple of Paul. I'm sorry, of John. But then we would
Yeah.
have to ask the question. Then he became a follower of the Musaylama of that time, which was Paul, and he disregarded the teachings of prophet of what he would learn from John, or he corrupted it because now he's following the Musaylama of Christianity, which is Paul. So my point here is there's no way you can prove what you want to prove here, Ahmed. And I want to get into the jihad discussion here, okay? Because if you say, let's look into the lives of these disciples, okay? I'm sorry, the lives of these people. Okay, fine. We see Papias turned out to be a fraud, but there's also another bigger fraud. And a bigger fraud than Papias was Justin Martyr. You know, he was a Nazi, right? Justin Martyr was the one. Let's now again. Here's my references. I'm actually producing references. Okay, he was basically you could say the very first Nazi. Listen to what he's what this is. I'm quoting from the website Jewish Virtual Library, and it talked about
Yeah.
Justin Martyr.
Again,
It said he
see,
often denounced the
Jewish,
Jews for
Jewish
having
virtual
crucified
library.
Jesus as he
Obviously,
accuses
they
them.
would say this.
Whoa, 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 my 2 minutes, please. Let me take my 2 minutes. As he accuses them of, so basically, he's using deicide. It states over here Justin's hatred, invective against the Jews and Judaism entered mainstream Christian thought and became a sinister influence which contributed not a little towards the development of what is known as Christian anti Semitism. So now we find a Nazi inside the church fathers. How do you explain that?
Yeah, this is an article made by who? A rabbi?
Just no, it's a Jewish virtual library.
Yeah, again, you know, a Jewish website. So they claim that Justin Martyr was a Nazi.
Well, I'm calling him a Nazi. He was basically,
Calling him a Nazi.
yeah,
Why? Again, can you repeat?
yeah. It states here on, on the Jewish Virtual Library, Justin's invective, which means hatred against the Jews and Judaism, entered mainstream Christian thought and became a sinister influence, which contributed not a little toward the development of what is known as Christian anti-Semitism.
Alrighty then. Another self-destructive argument for Islam. The thing is, you know, I'm not gonna go there right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say that first of all, this is an article made by a Jewish website, and let's say that this article is true and it actually happened. Now tell me, is this God's fault that as a particular person read the verse that the Jews killed Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
and then he became rageful. He started hating the Jews and whatever. Now tell me, is this God's fault in the first place that this was written in the New Testament? Like, how can you claim? How can you demonize the New Testament based on these claims alone? And if you do demonize the New Testament, keep in mind that every book can be turned into a weapon, not just the New Testament.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me start my 2 minutes. Yeah, here's how we can. So basically, we're seeing here that there is like this evil, curse from the Bible, which is turning people into Nazis. Okay, now let me. Now the problem is that this is well documented in church history. We all agree upon this. Justin Martyr had a discussion with a Jew called Trypho, I think is what his name, and there he basically, you know, talked about that the Jews should be persecuted, and so let me get you the exact discussion which Justin Martyr had here, if I can find it. Justin Martyr. So basically, he made claims that the Jews looked a certain way, and for their circumcision, they have been marked so that we can all persecute them. This is what he wrote. Okay, he says a custom of circumcision of the flesh
Wait, hold
handed
on.
down from
I'm here.
Abraham. What?
Hold on. So hold on. Let me come back. Someone's at the door.
Oh, okay, sure,
Hold
sure,
on for a second.
sure.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm back.
Oh, okay, okay. So let me basically share my screen again here real quick. Okay, I'm gonna take my time here. All right. So go back. So the problem is you said look at the history of the church fathers, and we're doing that, and we're seeing that the history is showing that there is this Bible verse in the book of Thessalonians, which is creating this type of evil hatred and evil men. Look, listen to what he said over here. Okay, the customs of circumcision, circumcising the flesh, handed down from Abraham, was given to you as a distinguishing mark to set you off from other nations and from us Christians. The purpose of this was that you and only you might suffer the afflictions that are now justly yours. So circumcision, according to him, Allah created, or God created circumcision so that we can persecute the Jews. But that's not true, because now Muslims are circumcised too. And we also know from modern science that circumcision, people who are circumcised are 60% less likely to get these sexually transmitted diseases. So he's clearly wrong. He's clearly some crazy nut, and that your lands be desolated and that your cities ruined by fire. This is what Hitler did. And that the fruits of your land be eaten by strangers before your very own eyes. Not one, that not one of you be permitted to enter the city of Jerusalem, which is what Christians did. Jews were not allowed to enter into Jerusalem, and then Islam allowed them in. Okay, so you ask, how can we blame God for that? That's a problem here. If we, so my problem here is that this is a question you have to answer. This all comes back from that verse in Thessalonians that the Jews killed Jesus. So here's how we can blame the Bible: introducing an idea while knowing it will likely cause harm or serious problems does create some degree of moral responsibility for the foreseeable outcomes. You knew this was going to happen, true or false? Can you answer that? Is this a true statement? All right. You could probably put this inside ChatGPT or whatever. It will, it will come out as true. So that is where we can disprove these church fathers and this false prophet which you are following, Apostle Paul. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much for such a constructive argument. What article were you using again?
This article which I was using, what comes from, I came from the Jewish Virtual Library and from
Okay,
the Kesher
Jewish
Journal.
virtual.
The Kesher Journal.
Yeah,
But
okay.
this quote, the dialogue is found with Trifo is found in many, many, many different journals. It's not just these journals.
Okay, you know, a very constructive argument, and I really find your, what do we say, uh, your thesis that because God cannot command these things, That's why we blame the Bible and the church fathers in the first place, right? That's what you said, right?
Oh no, let me read
Because
it for
God
you again.
commands
This is
such
this is
acts.
this is my argument right here. Just take
Yeah.
some time to read
Can
that.
you just make it a little bit bigger?
Oh, I'm
Just
sorry.
the text a little bit bigger. Yeah. Introducing an idea while knowing it will likely cause harm or serious problem just creates some degree of moral responsibility for foreseeable outcomes. True or false? True. And this goes both ways. That is true. But
Hmm.
also, I would say it also depends on the people reading the scripture. Are
Right.
they zealous, or do they look for verses or certain aspects of the scripture, to what do we say? To promote their violence or to be violent for power or any other ulterior motives, or do they use the scripture as it is intended? And that is basically for peace. Do you agree with me or not? That the
Uh,
responsibility is also on the one who's reading the scripture.
right. Both are responsible.
Yeah, thank you so much. Because again, I was wanting to come here, for a long time, and this is something which basically every religion suffers with, and it's better if we talk about it more neutrally, or we can adhere to our own beliefs whatsoever.
Hmm.
So according to this passage, or this sentence, introducing an idea while knowing it will likely cause harm or serious problems does create some degree of moral responsibility for foreseeable outcomes. True or false? Yes, it creates responsibility of the one who's writing it too, right?
Both are responsible. Yes.
Yeah, that is great. However,
Okay.
though, yeah, the problem
So,
is.
okay, hold on. That's my 2 minutes.
Yeah,
That's, I'm sorry, sure, 2 minutes. Let me start my 2 minutes. Okay. So that's my point. So now we can blame the New Testament for introducing this idea of deicide. Deicide is known as a killing of God. The New Testament introduced this idea, and if it was from God, he knew that terrible things are going to happen. People are going to misinterpret it. It's going to create this hatred. It's going to create this type of cycle of violence, which I showed you over here. Okay, so let's go back to this picture over here, which I had. Where is it? I can't find it. Okay, so he knew this was going to happen. So yes, the New Testament is responsible for bringing in unimaginable suffering and hardship, terror, and persecution into the world. You asked me to look into the lives of the church fathers, and we find this crazy Nazi, Justin Martyr. We find another lunatic, Papias, who's inventing things, claiming Jesus said something, but he didn't. Well, I mean, at least that's not what our gospels show. Okay, so I did look at this, and so that what I want to now talk about jihad in Islam, because let's just agree, Ahmed. Look, we can be here for another 3 hours. You will not, or nobody will, not just you, will be able to prove that the gospels are reliable, that Paul is a true prophet, and this is the true church. You can't do that. Nobody can do that. That's why there's no debates on this topic, Ahmed. Okay, you are trying to do what it's like people are like giving you advice by them not debating this. You're trying to do what is not possible. Okay, so I think we should talk about Islam now, talk about jihad, and I just want you to accept today you're not going to be able to prove the reliability of the gospels. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. And let's see. Yeah, no. Uh, Again, uh, you said that, you know, because this statement was true, you know, that the person who's creating this idea, which is not there in the first place, or something along those lines, is responsible for some degree of the consequences. True or false? That was the statement, I guess. And I
No,
said yes to it, and to
yeah,
it you replied,
yeah,
well, okay then. Well, according to this statement, we can assume that the New Testament has brought uh, so much destruction and misery into the world. Yeah,
right,
that
right.
that was your conclusion.
Hmm.
That because this is true, this statement is true. We can assume that the New Testament brought so much destruction into this world. Okay, now remember at the start of this debate, I told you that hopefully you won't give me self-destructive arguments because you have given me an argument that
Yep.
you have literally given me an open space. So let's go ahead.
Let's start with
Let's
Islam.
read Surah Toba, Ayah 29, where it says, those who do not believe in Allah and the last day, even though they were given the scriptures, Jews and Christians, and who do not hold as unlawful what which Allah and His Messenger have declared unlawful, and who do not follow the true religion, fight against them until they pay tribute money out of their hand, and they are utterly subdued. So again, this is a really huge opening. Now you quoted the New Testament and you said, oh, because of these certain verses, people like Justin Martyr and all these people, they became Nazis. Well, I give
Hmm.
you Surah Al-Tawbah, ayat 29, because of this verse, so many Muslims became jihadis and terrorists and terrible people altogether.
Okay, that's your
I
time.
think,
Okay, thank
yeah,
you.
go ahead.
So, the first of all, if Surah 9, verse 29 produced terrorists, show it to me. Simple. Show me one terrorist who
Okay,
read. Hold on.
so
Hold on.
first, okay,
My 2 minutes,
I don't
please. My
have
two
the
minutes,
screen share, but let's
please.
read.
Please
Osama bin
stop.
Laden,
Stop.
the
Hey,
founder of
whoa, whoa, whoa,
Al
whoa. Wait a
Qaeda,
second.
frequently
Stop.
referenced the Quran
Ahmed.
in his audio and
Ahmed.
video messages. You're
Ahmed,
telling
stop
me to
it.
show where
Stop.
these terrorists
Okay,
quoting
Ahmed,
the
you're going to have
Quran,
your
and
two
I'm
minutes.
showing it to you. Come on,
Okay, time out. Time out. You cannot interrupt people. Okay, you cannot
you didn't let
interrupt
me
people
respond.
like you just did. Okay, I'm going to take my 2 minutes again. Very, very simple. I'm going to take my 2 minutes again. Ahmed, I'm sorry, Ahmed, the problem is a lot of people have done research into this alleged claim that terrorists, that somehow Islam inspired terrorism, and we'll look at the research as well. But let me first start off by telling you the great thing of chapter 9, verse 29. Surah 9, verse 29 doesn't inspire terrorists. Maybe if you look in this world, maybe there might be one or two, but as far as I've seen in the research, which I've seen, it's zero. 929 is a beautiful verse. This is the evidence of why Islam is a religion of peace. Okay. So at that time, when Surah 9, verse 29 was revealed, the Jews and the Christians and the Persians were deadlocked in a war for 600 years. I think it's either the first or second longest war. There's no end to this. So there is a problem with Jews and Christians and the Persians at that time, and Islam fixed that problem. Yeah, it took a battle, it took a war, but it finally brought peace into the world, and not just peace, but prosperity and religious freedom. Because when you look at the Quran, when it said, "Yeah, go out and fight," good, go out and fight, but the Quran also lists reasons, and one of those reasons is to preserve religious freedom. So I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with you a reference and one of my many references, which shows you that Surah 9, verse 29 actually brought peace into the world. So the first argument is it ended this never ending war, a 600-year war between the Romans and the Persians, number one. And then it also brought peace into the world. Let's read this right here. So basically, it's talked about how the Jews were kicked out of Jerusalem. Remember what Justin Martyr said. Uh, it said it looked like the end for Judaism in Judea. However, things were going on in the Arabian desert, which within 7 years would change the picture of the Near East and the world. What was going on in the Arabian desert? Surah 9, verse 29, the commands to go out and fight them. And as the Jewish Virtual Library states, that's what saved the Jews from the persecution of the Christians. Go ahead.
Uh, Thank you, but keep in mind that this wasn't my original argument, or neither was it yours. the statement which you showed me was that when there are certain ideas which are not there in the first place, when they're written or when they're formed, uh, consequences happen of those certain ideas.
Hmm.
That was the original statement. And yes, I said that just like how in the New Testament, just like how you claim that the New Testament brought so much misery and so much destruction, because apparently it said that Jews killed Christ. Just like that, I gave you an example from the Quran, Surah Al-Tawbah, Ayah 29. Now, hear me out. I'm not saying that my original argument is not that this verse itself is evil, even though it looks evil if you look at it, more evil than the one in the New Testament. But that's not my argument. My argument is just like how you said that when people like, what did you say, Justin Martyr, or other people like Hitler, when they saw this verse in the New Testament,
Hmm.
they interpreted it as something negative. They had rage in them, and because they had rage, they did all this stuff. They did terrible, terrible stuff after reading that verse. My argument is that just like those people who read the New Testament, who read the verse and did terrible stuff, just like that, there are a lot of Muslims who read the Quran, right? They go to Surah Al-Azab, Ayah 29, and they see,
Okay, that's
oh,
time.
look,
That's time.
Allah is going
Okay,
to subjugate. So
so
just let me conclude. Let me
okay, sure,
conclude my
sure.
argument.
Hmm.
So my argument is that it's not the book's fault. It's not the book's fault. It's not the Quran's fault that people like Osama bin Laden were there. It's not the Quran's fault. They're just reading it wrong for their
Hmm.
own power. And same goes with you know uh, uh, Justin Martyr and Hitler. They weren't. It's not the New Testament's fault. It's the one who's reading it, the one who's interpreting it. Go ahead.
Hmm. So we have already, refuted when we're going right back. I made you accept. Let's go back to. In fact, let's go back to. I'm sorry. Let me start my time. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Yes, it is a book's fault. Okay, we have already talked about this. Okay, introducing an idea while knowing it will cause harm or serious problems does create some degree of moral responsibility for the foreseeable outcomes. True or false? You said true. Yes, this is common sense. It is a book's fault. Now, let me help you out because you're struggling here with this nonsense. Okay? People have really looked into these foolish arguments, which is what it is. That Quran teaches terrorism and stuff like that. All you have to do, and I know you have not done this, Google this. Watch this. What motivates terrorists? Okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
What
Let,
what
let me let
motivates
me.
terrorists? Okay. As you can see, I've read these articles. Here we have clear research. All right, research which documents what motivated people to do 9/11, what motivated them to do all the ISIS as well. We're going to look at that. Okay. This one was a good one I read. It was really nice. You can use ChatGPT to just read through it and things like that. But guess what? It's not in here.
Uh,
Oh,
I
stop, stop.
do
No,
have it
no
open,
interrupting. No
and
interrupting,
I,
please.
I do have it open. I don't know if you can see that or not. And it says that that prominent terrorist leaders were actually motivated
Okay.
by their religious
No,
beliefs.
that's not. There's no evidence for that. Okay, so let me show you the research here. Okay, this is the Hoover Institution right here. All the research, Ahmed, all the not post 9/11 research, all of it exonerates the Quran and the Sunnah. All of it. Okay? So now you claim you have some research paper. Show it to me that states the Quran, Surah 9, verse 29, in specific, causes terrorism. Show it to me.
Yeah, there are articles on especially these two websites. I don't know
Okay,
if you can
give me
see
give me
them
the
or not.
website. Give me the website.
Uh,
What is it?
Marine Corps University and Taylor Francis Online.
Okay,
And
hold on.
another
Hold on.
one is
Hold on.
there,
Let me read it.
Institute
Hold on.
or
Whoa, whoa, whoa. One
Institute.
article at a time. Let's.
Read this for me, please.
Yeah.
Institute of Global Terrorism, Institute for Economics and Peace, 2024 Global Terrorism Index
Okay.
Institute.
Institute of.
This
Whoa,
is
whoa, whoa,
the
whoa, whoa, whoa. What? Please help me out.
the
Institute of
article.
Global
So I'm
Terrorism. Yeah. Institute of Global Terrorism. And what was the other one? Okay. What's the article name? Institute of Global Terrorism. Yeah.
this is a summary about Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the former
Oh,
leader.
yes.
Yeah,
I've actually read that article. Can I go over? Let me go over it with you. It actually states exactly what I've been telling you. So let's do Institute of Global Terrorism. What a coincidence, because I read it myself. If it's the actual, if I'm thinking this, like, actually, let me pull up my notes here. Um, let me go there, and they're going to blame Surah 9 verse 29, right? Okay.
well, what do you mean by they? Because you showed me a lot of articles from the Jewish library or,
Yeah.
something like that. So I can say the same that they're blaming the New Testament for what Hitler did.
Okay. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. The article which I read was this one right here. Study of terrorism and response to terrorism. From This is by Start University. Let me see what is Start. This is. But anyways, I read the article. Okay, the history and ideology and psychology on this article. And what I have read through here, they do not blame the Quran. In fact, they blamed a lot of political issues, which caused these issues to create. Now, here's what I did for you. A lot of people are not going to read these articles. I understand that. So you can use Chat
Uh,
GPT to summarize it. Okay.
this is the original article. I don't know if you can see that or not. I will,
Okay.
forward it to you afterwards.
Well, no, no, give it to me right now. I want to see this article. What's the article that you're talking about? Because all the references, all the research clearly exonerate Quran and Sunnah. They say this is not the problem. Okay. So which article are you talking about? Show me the research. Which one is it? Is it this
Go to
article?
Institute of Economics and Peace, Global Terrorism Index.
Okay. Economics and Peace Global
Global, yeah.
Terrorism Index 2005.
But hold on, can you read that?
It says Institute of Economics and Peace Global Terrorism Index 2025. Is this the article?
No. This is the website, and you can look at the article within that website under the name of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Okay, did he okay, and so what does it say in the article that you're quoting? Can
Well, right now I'm reading the summary because the article itself is like a newspaper or something.
Okay,
But I'm
by
reading the
now,
summary.
okay, see about yeah,
You know,
by now
just
yeah,
for
go
a
ahead.
little bit of just
Yeah.
to tell you what
Mhm.
it says. To summarize, it's a summary. Uh, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the former leader of the Islamic State (IS), or I don't know, it says IS, routinely invoked the Quran in his declarations, selectively citing verses about establishing a khilafat to legitimize the group's brutal violence. These groups often publish propaganda such as the digital corpora analyzed in the studies of Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM, that rely heavily on literal and out of context interpretations of sacred texts. And that is exactly what I'm telling you. I was saying my
You're
argument was
misunderstanding.
that it's not the book's fault. Just like you said, oh, that the New Testament says that the Jews killed the Christ. I said it's not the fault of the New Testament. It's the fault of those who are reading that text, who are reading
Okay,
that verse, and then they're going haywire. They're causing destruction. It's not the book's fault. And look,
you're okay.
this is what it says. No, please, this is better for both of us. This is better for both of us. These groups often publish propaganda such as the Digital Corpora analyzed in studies of Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb that rely heavily on literal and out of context, again, out of context, interpretations of sacred text. Those sacred texts can be anything. It can be the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. So that's what I was trying to tell you. That it's not the book's fault. It's not the New Testament fault that some idiots they started killing the Jews. It's not the New Testament. Again, just like
Okay,
how this says, it's not the Quran's fault that people like Osama bin Laden and um, uh, al-Baghdadi exist. It's not the Quran's fault. It's the fault of those people who are reading that text, who are reading that verse, and they're abusing that verse, for their actions. Go ahead.
yeah. Okay, so you obviously don't understand the research which you're quoting. You've probably never read that article. Nobody is claiming that this is some type of the sole issue that, oh well, they're just reinterpreting or misinterpreting, thing. That is a very
They're not
vague description. Hold on,
reinterpreting or
stop.
not
Stop
misinterpreting.
interrupting.
Wait,
Stop
hold on.
interrupting. Problem is you don't understand the research paper which you're actually reading. I
No,
actually have no
look,
problem with
the
what
thing
they're
is,
saying. No, no, no. Let
listen
me,
to me for a moment.
Ahmed, no
The thing is,
interrupting,
you
please.
are right now
Okay.
actively destroying
Yeah.
yourself because I
No, no, no.
gave
You
you
are
a really
destroying
nice
yourself
point,
with
a
your
really
behavior.
polite
Okay.
point that, look,
Okay.
it's not the Quran which is bad,
Yeah.
it's the people who are
Okay.
reading it. Just like
No,
how the New
no,
Testament is
no, no,
not
no,
bad,
no, no.
it's the people who are reading it. You
Okay.
say that no, this is not the case. You have not read the
No, no.
article and they are not doing this. So that means
Okay.
that they are not misinterpreting the Quran, which means does the
Okay.
Quran
No,
just
nobody
say
is. No,
about
stop. Just
subjugating us,
stop
subjugating
your
the Jews and
outbursts.
Christians?
Ahmed, stop your outbursts. Okay. You need to respect the rules of our discussion. I'm going to start my 2 minutes over because you obviously don't know
Go ahead.
anything about the research you're quoting. Okay. So I will quote you for the third time, Ahmed. Okay. The New Testament is gone because it basically incited violence into the people. Let's read it
So
one
does the
more
Quran,
time.
because the Quran
Stop.
incited violence into
Stop.
the people.
Okay. You know what?
You're
Okay.
not understanding the
We're not
simple
going to have this
analogy.
discussion. We're not going to have
You're
this. If
not
you interrupt,
understanding this. Nadir
if
Ahmed,
you
please,
interrupt,
you're not
no, no,
understanding
no.
this. You
You are,
claim,
you,
this is your
it's game
claim,
over for
that
you.
the New Testament
You know
is
you're done.
violent
I'm
because
not
the
going to.
people read that verse and then they become a Nazi. Hitler killed Jews. Yeah, go ahead, run away from me. But you're not conceding to the fact that the same goes with the Quran. People read verses
You are
like ayat
sabotaging the
Surah
debate.
Tawbah, and then they reinterpret it in their
Okay.
own
No.
heads, and then they use that verse, or that use the Quran. They use the Quran to do horrible, horrible stuff.
Nobody, no, but that none of what you said has happened, actually. The problem is, Ahmed, you are sabotaging this debate with your rude outbursts and not following the rules of our discussion. Okay. Let us, I'm glad that we're having this discussion. I think what's happening, we need to take some time here. We're all getting emotional. Let's calm down so we can respect the rules of the discussion here. Okay. All right. I'm going to start my 2 minutes and let's respect the time so we can have this discussion. There's no way you can get around this. Introducing an idea while knowing this will likely cause harm or serious problems does create some degree of moral responsibility for the foreseeable outcomes. You said true, good. Christianity's gone. Now, does the research show that the same holds true for Islam? No, it doesn't. Let's go back to the actual research, what it stated here. Okay. Now, it stated here that there were many, many, many different things which caused the rise of ISIS. Misinterpreting the verses of a Quran, which, like, so basically, here's what's not happening. Baghdadi never opened up the Quran and found a justification for killing innocent people. That never happened. Baghdadi only interpreted, you know, he only interpreted, first of all, let me go. He interpreted that we need a khalifa, which is correct. We do need a khalifa, okay, in this world. So we don't have a problem with that. But him ascribing himself as Khalifa, then that's where the problem comes in. Now, what created ISIS? It's not just Islam or his understanding of Islam. It's several different factors. Now, because you did not read the article, I asked ChatGPT to list out, if so I asked if it does not come from plain reading of the Quran and Hadith, where does it come from? This is my question. So I asked ChatGPT to interpret it. According to this paper, the answer is no. ISIS does not come from the plain reading of Quran and Hadith. They stated many different reasons: geopolitical upheaval following the U.S. invasion of Iraq, Sunni marginalization and sectarian conflict, the leadership of Zarqawi and later Baghdadi, radicalized networks including Camp Bucca, the Syrian civil war, the extremist Salafi jihadist ideology. So there were many, many, many different you could say ingredients to get ISIS here, but it doesn't come from the plain reading of Quran and Hadith. That's what you're misunderstanding. Go ahead.
Again, you opened up ChatGPT. I have this article from the Marine Corps University, and you can look at this article. And this article is all about, if you can make my screen bigger, I don't know if you can see that. The screen glows too much. So this is the article which I'm reading, and it talks about the abstract in the Islamic Hadith corpus and the Quran. The way to atone for sins is called tawbah or tawbah, which requires one to complete a series of steps to receive forgiveness from Allah God. Jihadist terrorist organizations use primarily Quranic scripture to recruit and employ suicide bombers who may have a guilty conscience for their past sins. And this is a whole literal article on this thing. And this is just one article, by the way. There are many others. Let me go down. Yeah. Death for deliverance through jihad, the Quran, and the Hadith corpus. Now, the thing is, what I'm saying is really, really simple. I'm saving Islam if you look at it from a perspective. I'm saying that, look, yes, there have been people with screws loose in their heads who read the Quran, who read the Hadith, and they were like, you know what? We can use this verse for terrorism. We can use this verse to justify the evil we do. I am saying that it's not the Quran's fault that these people exist. This is so simple. And just like how this is not the Quran's fault that people read verses from the Quran and then they became jihadists, I'm saying it's not the Quran's fault. Just like that, just like that, the same criteria.
Yeah.
When Justin Martyr or people like Hitler, when they read the New
Okay,
Testament,
it's my turn. It's my turn. No. Okay. I am saying, okay, I am saying you did not read the research. You do not understand what you're talking about. Okay.
I can,
So the whole stop.
forward it to you.
It's my turn. You are the problem is you said, "Oh, you're using Chat GPT." I'm doing it because you are ignorant, Ahmed.
I'm
Because I
reading
know
an
you did
article.
not. Okay, stop interrupting. I'm doing it because I know Ahmed did not do the research. Okay, look at my screen. I'm helping you. Okay, because you don't. You obviously you have not read the research, and you're just trying to, share the screen. I'm taking the from. Okay, I'm quoting pretty much similar source. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger. I'm using ChatGPT to help you understand the research which you are quoting. Study a natural consortium study of terrorism and response to terrorism. Okay, it's ISIS, it's history, ideology, and psychology. Okay, here's the article right here. So now the art now because you did not do the research, I took that PDF. Look at this. I dragged and dropped it, the PDF, into ChatGPT. I'm trying to find out what caused ISIS. Here's a research paper. Sum it up in one small paragraph. Okay. So they summed it up in one small paragraph for you so you can understand this. Okay. And so ISIS did not arise from a single cause, which is what you're misunderstanding. You think it's because somebody's misinterpreting Quran. No, please read the research. But from a convergence of all these factors, power vacuums. But look at the list here that misinterpreting Islam is not the cause. Okay, it's not the cause, it's a symptom. Do you understand the researcher quoting? And by the way, he
Yeah,
didn't. Hold on,
exactly.
hold on
Just
a second.
how me, yeah, I
Stop.
understand exactly.
Okay,
Just
but
how
my point
misreading
to
the
you. Hold
New
on a second.
Testament is a
Stop
symptom,
interrupting,
not
Ahmed.
a cause.
Okay, what I'm saying
Go
is,
ahead.
and
Yeah,
he did not use a
it's a
Quran to
symptom,
kill
not a
innocent
cause.
people.
If
Okay,
if people like Hitler read the
hold on
New
a second.
Testament and misinterpreted it, it's not a
No, we're
cause.
talking about
Symptom.
ISIS. Okay, this is okay. Here's my problem here. Even ISIS, they never went to the Quran and said, yes, based on this Quran verse, we can kill innocent people. He never did that because the Quran doesn't allow that, and he knew it. So go ahead.
How do you know this? Were you a part of ISIS yourself? Such a big claim.
I've done the research. That's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, where he what he actually basically he made. So the problem is it's the year 2026, or I'm sorry, they came out in like 20 years ago. You're telling me that for 1400 years, you know, nobody understood Islam, and then finally after 1400 years we get this group called ISIS comes up. Okay, that's pretty ridiculous that finally we
Oh
get
no,
somebody.
we had battles
Yeah.
back in the day too. In fact, here's one
Okay.
in the Quran. Well, it's not a battle, but it's a verse,
Oh,
you
let's
know.
finish up ISIS. Let's finish up ISIS. I want you to take your 2 minutes and finish up ISIS, where you're saying that they misinterpreted verses, which they got confused. They thought this teaches to kill innocent people. Go ahead, show me that.
Is it my time to speak?
Yeah, please take your 2 minutes.
So yeah, there are a bunch of articles from different sources, from different channels, from the marine sources themselves who dealt with these people, and they all claim that the reason why these people were the way they were, the reason why these people were so violent, is that because they used to use the Quranic text to to defend their actions. Let me read this real quick. Yes, yeah, here you go. In the Hadith corpus, uh, hold on, yeah, in the Hadith corpus and Quran, the way to atone for sins is called tawbah or tawbah, which requires one to complete a series of complex steps to receive forgiveness from Allah. However, one can circumvent tawbah and its requirements by giving their life in religious holy war, aka jihad. In the Hadith corpus, Muhammad, the Prophet, said, "The person who participates in holy battles in Allah's cause and nothing compels him to do so except believe in Allah and His apostles will be recompensed by Allah either with a reward or booty if he survives, or will be admitted to paradise if he is killed in the battle as a martyr. Had I not found it difficult for my followers, then I would not remain behind any Sariya going for jihad, and I would have
Mhm.
loved to be martyred in Allah's cause, and then
Beautiful.
made, and then martyred, and then made alive, and then again
Beautiful.
martyred
Thank
in
you.
His
Thank you. It's my turn.
cause. Look,
Okay.
let me.
So hold
They
on. That's your
use
2 minutes. Now my
they
2 minutes,
use
please.
these
That,
hadiths and these
but I
verses
agree with all that. That's
of the
wonderful. They
Prophet
did a
Muhammad to
yeah.
recruit bombers.
Okay.
Come
They
on, you're
okay.
not listening to me at this point.
Yeah,
So
no,
hey,
I agree
you're
with
gonna
all what
find
you're
the bomb
saying.
supply, you're gonna go straight to
Everything you
heaven. All
said.
you need to do is strap a bomb to
Okay.
your chest and then blow up.
No, no, no. Hold on a
That's
second. Now,
literally what it's talking about.
hold on a second. Let's first of all, everything you said, I actually agree. I first their country, Iraq, was wrongfully invaded upon false pretexts that there were weapons of mass destruction, and therefore this was all a lie. The people who rose up to fight in jihad against the evil Zionist oppressors, there's no argument against that. We all agree upon that now. So everything you said is morally justified. So when they
Wait,
use
wait,
about hold
wait. Did you just
stop,
say Zionist? Wait, hold on.
you
Did you just
have
say
your 2 minutes.
Zionist? You don't follow the New Testament, do you?
Hold
You
on a
follow the
second.
Quran. Why do you call the
Hold
Jews Zionists?
Ahmed, hold on a second. Let me finish. Please stop interrupting, Ahmed. So whatever you stated about calls to war, calls to fight, that this is atonement, all of that is perfectly fine. They were that is morally right thing to do. So everything you actually quoted was perfectly fine. But what I'm trying to explain to you, Ahmed, is there is not, first of all, you're misunderstanding the research. There is no single cause which caused ISIS to grow out of this. There is none. And it did not come from reading the Quran and Hadith. It did not come from that. You're misunderstanding the research. Let's go to the research again. It states very clearly here. Okay, and we're going to also do a quick search on your research, which your research, you see, I'm accepting. I agree with what's being said there, but you are misunderstanding it. Read carefully. Look what it says. We're going to do the chat GPT summary of it. So it does not come from a plain reading of Quran or Hadith. According to this paper, no. Reading the Quran and Hadith did not create ISIS. Do you not understand that? It came from these factors. I will read it for you again.
Okay,
Read it
okay,
off on your screen.
okay. I understand. Now go ahead and ask ChatGPT,
Sure.
did the New Testament create Zionism, or did the New Testament create, Nazis? Go ahead,
Yeah.
type this.
Well,
Did the
sure.
New Testament create Nazis?
Let's finish ISIS. Let's do ISIS right now. Okay.
No,
And
no.
then we,
Let's apply the same
okay. Sure. No
criteria
problem.
to
No
the New
problem.
Testament.
But
Go
notice
ahead
what I
and
did.
write. Did the New
Okay.
Testament
Absolutely.
create Nazis?
Notice ISIS. I had to give him the research paper here, so I've got to feed. You got to feed Chat GPT. You got to feed Chat GPT the information. But I also wanted to point out
Okay,
ISIS.
okay.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so ChatGPT is only going to respond to you based on what you feed to it, right?
It does. Yeah. You
So
got to
you can
tell them.
control the outcome. It's artificial intelligence. So the
Here.
articles you showed me before about Justin Martyr and Hitler, especially the one where it was stated that the New Testament says that the Jews killed a god, deicide. Can you feed those articles into ChatGPT?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Deicide. This is known as deicide, which caused which caused um uh there you go, anti-Semitism. Okay. Let's just start the discussion right here. Okay. So I said yes. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste my thing in here. Oops, my mouse just went over. Okay, so they basically agree with everything here. Okay, so now I'll paste this. Okay, generally true.
Generally,
Yeah.
Now ask ChatGPT, uh, did the New Testament or did this verse, did they create Nazis?
Well, why would I go to ChatGPT when that's exactly what? Let's go. Let's first go to the research. Let's go to the. You got to feed.
Exactly. Why are you going to ChatGPT where I have this article in my phone myself? Why
It's right
are we
here.
going there?
It's right here. This is this is the roots of Nazism. The root of, from the video from Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial. This is a research we should first go to. Is what I'm saying. Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial. Roots of Nazi ideology. One of the roots, Christian anti-Judaism. What is that? The video goes on. The Jewish belief. I'm sorry. The Jews were accused of deicide, rejecting and
No.
then the
Yeah,
killing
you
of the
were you
Messiah.
were on ChatGPT, but you didn't write what I asked you to write, and
Okay.
it was a really simple question: is the
Okay.
New Testament responsible for Nazism? Something along those lines.
Well, Nazism had many different roots, so we got to give it the right question.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
thank you
It
so
had,
much. Thank you.
yeah. Did the Nazis?
Thank you so much. You just conceded to a fact that I wanted you to concede for a really
Okay.
long time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nadir.
Did the Nazis did use this as a basis? Okay, so the answer is yes. So now going back to ISIS, I want to finish up ISIS. You know, the Quran and Hadith doesn't produce ISIS or people misinterpreting the book. That's really not what happened. There is no problem of people going to the Quran and Hadith
Wait,
and misinterpreting it.
did you say considering all these facts which you just fed into ChatGPT right
Yeah,
now
yeah. Considering all these
about the
facts.
deicide and all that stuff?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because the thing with ChatGPT is what articles or what sources you feed into it, it gives you the answer according to those articles.
Okay, so
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 if you fed it the articles that the New Testament says accuses the Jews of deicide, and that's a fact in a way, it's going to generate a response depending on the articles you submitted to it.
yeah.
So
But you need to
I
understand
see that you asked according to these facts, and
but
you're saying it's fact.
one of the things I needed you to understand, I only used ChatGPT to summarize the article. Okay. I'm not going to ChatGPT like the way you're doing it because I know you did not read the research and you don't understand it. So I asked it to summarize the points in the article. And from the summary, from the top summary, it says he doesn't list Islam as a problem which caused it. Okay. So that's when I asked a follow up question about what's inside
Based
the
on the
PDF.
articles you gave it to them, right?
That is not my article. This is from this website. Okay, I gave it this
I'm talking
article.
about this article, not this one, the other one. You know,
Let's take your article. Give me your article so we can have ChatGPT look at it. What was the name of that article you're using?
yeah, here's the problem with ChatGPT. It generates a response based on the information you feed it.
I'm
That's
going to feed
just
it your
the way it
article.
works.
I'm going to feed it your article. Can you give me your article? What is it? What is your article? Can you give it to me? Oh, hello, Ahmed. Are you there? Hello. I can't hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, I need your article. What's your article?
Wait a second. Hopefully, I can send it to you.
Well, just read it off to me and I can type it and Google it.
It's an article by the Marine Corps University Press, MCUP.
Marine Corps, what is it?
A Marine Corps University Press, MCUP. And the headline of the article is uh, global terrorism. Wait, hold on. Let me make it a little bit easier. Yes, this is
Just give me the link to
titled
the article.
Marine Corps University Escaping Atonement in Sunni Islam.
Is that the name of the article?
Yeah, I found the exact name of the. Here it is: Marine Corps University Escaping Atonement in Sunni Islam. I hope it comes up for you.
Okay, here we go. I got it. I got it right here. Okay. So here's the article. Okay. Good. Please and
What are you writing?
tell please summarize this art and tell me what are the causes for ISIS.
ISIS or most other terrorism in general.
Okay.
Can you
So,
make it a picture?
okay, here we go. Okay, the author argues the jihad such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda teach that martyrdom provides a shortcut to paradise by bypassing the uncertainty and difficulty of repentance. Okay, the article. Let's keep going. The mainstream. Okay, the author's central argument. The author forgives. Okay, according to the article, recruiter selective.
According
Okay,
to the
Quran Hadith.
article,
Yeah.
uh, can you read that for me?
Hold on, let me look through this real quick. The article does not argue that ISIS had a single cause. Okay, rather it identifies factors that may help explain why some individuals join ISIS or volunteers for suicide missions. Feeling of guilt, ISIS's
Can you
promises
scroll up
of
for me?
martyrdom. Hold on, let me read. Let me do fear of divine punishment. So there's something wrong with this article because is this research or is this somebody's opinion? Let me take a look. Okay, Christina Reinhardt is just writing some opinionated article here, okay? Because here's a problem. The problem with this article you're quoting from me is that it's only talking about Islam. It's just focusing, and maybe this is good because why it's good is because if you read through the synopsis here, is that there's really no issue of people taking a Quran verse and saying, yeah, you know what? I can kill innocent women and children. So even based on this article, which for some,
Exactly.
yeah, there is
Exactly.
no confusion. So
That's the
Allahu
thing.
Akbar, this is good.
It's on the people, right? That's what I was
No, no, you're
trying to explain it
misunderstanding.
to you.
No, nobody's
It's on the one
misinterpreting Islam.
who's reading the verse,
Okay,
not the book itself.
there's no misinterpretation going on here. Okay, first of all,
Exactly.
this person, Christina, this is somebody's opinionated article. Okay, and so I'm quoting you research. That's where the problem is happening. I think but I'm
They're showing
glad.
me the
Hold
Jewish
on a second.
library, and they are concerned about Christianity, and they are
Hold on a
targeting
second.
Christianity.
Okay,
It's literally the
let's look
same
at
thing.
Christina. Okay, first of all, I don't have a problem with what Christina is writing.
Yahweh,
Okay,
the Jewish library.
we cannot talk over each other. Okay, first of all, there's two problems here. Number one, this is not a research. She's giving her opinion. Second problem is I actually agree with her. First of all, at this point right here, there is no misinterpretation of Islam going on here. Everybody should be doing this, not just ISIS. Everybody should be doing this. In mainstream Islamic theology, forgiveness for sins, blah, 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 blah. We should
And
all be doing this. What the
bombing other
Marines,
people and blowing up
that's not in the
in the
article.
name of Allah, saying
That's
Allahu
not in the
Akbar and then
article.
blowing up as a
Whoa, whoa,
shaheed so
whoa,
they can go to
whoa,
heaven.
whoa, whoa. Where is that in the article?
Everyone should do this, not just ISIS. Is that what you
Where
just
in
said?
where in the article is it stating that? Hold on a second. First of all,
Read the article.
let's just talk about what Christine is telling. Let me first give Christine some
Scroll
facts.
down.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, here we go. Where does it say that, where is it? What are you talking about?
Keep scrolling, you'll find it eventually.
Okay.
It's the same article. I'm gonna do it on my phone.
Okay. Well, first of all, you're talking about the opinion of Christina. Okay, this is not research. But we
You're
should
talking
go
about opinion of Jews,
what?
of anti Christian Jews, the Jews who
What?
do not like Christians. You're
Well,
talking
let's
about
finish up
them.
with what
You're
Christina
giving
is
me
saying.
an article about Yahweh Shev, the Jewish library, and you're giving me their teachings, their opinions. At this point, just read the just read the Talmud. At this point, come on.
Hold on a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. You're giving me the opinion of Christina. Now, Christina, what I like about her, I mean, what we can conclude from the article is the, and you're not understanding this. I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to tell you this one last time. Even Christina agrees in this article that ISIS failed to use the Quran to justify the killing of innocent people. Now, suicide bombing, if you're attacking soldiers or troops, okay, that's a different topic here. Okay, that's a different issue here. So the issue here, what we're finding, and suicide, the problem is suicide bombing, that's it was also inside the Japanese. They did kamikaze attacks. So ISIS actually borrowed from them. This was not suicide bombing was not something which first came with ISIS. It's been used many
Yeah,
times,
but look,
you know.
but listen,
Yeah.
dying in the name of Allah and going straight to heaven is
Straight to
something
heaven.
which the Quran states. It's
That's
an
a
Islamic
wonderful teaching. It's
mythology.
a beautiful
And
teaching.
people like ISIS, they recruit people, young
Yeah.
people, they say, hey, Abdullah, you want to
Mhm.
become a shaheed? You want to
Mhm.
go to Jannah
Mhm.
without all your
Yep.
sins being forgiven?
Yes.
Just
Very
take
good.
this bomb, strap it onto your chest, and you'll die for Allah. It's not his fault. He's being
Okay.
brainwashed
That
by the
never
people
happened. That
of
never
ISIS.
happened.
That's
Okay.
how they use the Quran in order to do this
No,
stuff.
no, no. That never
Hold on.
happened.
Okay.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Okay. You are what you're doing.
But you're
You're
wrong
looking.
too. You're wrong
No,
too. You said
no.
that the New Testament brought misery into
Whoa, whoa,
this
whoa, whoa,
world.
whoa. I can't talk about the New
Quran
Testament right
doesn't
now.
have time.
Hold on.
I
One
have
topic at a
articles on
time.
it.
Okay.
ISIS,
Hold on.
Mossad, Al Qaeda. Look at this article,
Okay.
man. Come on. The
Okay.
Quran and
No, hold
Hadith
on a
for
second.
major
Hold on a
Muslim
second.
religious
Hold on a
sources of
second.
Islamic jurisprudence. The
Wait
Quran
a
is the
second.
principal text of
We can.
Islam
Okay. Let's take
and
our
is
two
believed
minutes.
to
Two
contain the
minutes back
direct
and forth.
revelation from Allah. Read this article, man.
Yes.
And there are
You are.
many others than this. This is
Okay.
just one of them. I told you
Let,
about it just
I'm
for
going to give you 2 minutes.
to
Take your
keep the
2 minutes. Okay.
conversation going.
Yeah. The article refutes you. Okay, this is my point. The articles which you're quoting and the art and first of all, you're talking about the opinion of Christine. You know, whoever she is, that's fine. But I'm quoting
And
you
you're talking
research.
about the
Now I'm
opinion
going
of
to
a
take my
random
2 minutes.
Jewish
I'm going to
library,
finish.
Yahweh
I'm going
Hashem,
to.
about
That's
the
research.
rabbis. You're
Okay,
giving me their
stop.
opinions
Stop
about
interrupting,
Christianity.
Ahmed.
The same
Stop.
people who do not believe in Jesus Christ, you're giving me their opinion while being a
Okay.
Muslim and believing that Christ is the Messiah.
Okay.
Self-destructive arguments
You don't
all
want
along.
to have a discussion, Ahmed? You want to just interrupt and talk over me? Is that what you want to do? Because you cannot make your point. You see, the problem is, Ahmed, you are wrong and you're trying to sabotage this discussion. Okay, first of all, you quoted me, Christina. I quoted for you, which is documented research. Okay, which is a big difference. And you can see the difference here. Read very carefully. You said, oh, people are just, they want to die as martyrs, and that's what happened. No, that's not what happened. Read what it said over here. It states very clear, according to the authors, the research paper. So forget about Christine. Let's go to the research. ISIS did not arise from a single cause. Can you not read English? But from a
And I
convergence
agree.
of factors.
And I
The
agree.
power
ISIS does not
vacuum.
derive
The
from a
secretary,
single cause. It derives from multiple
stop
causes.
interrupting.
And the
Okay,
Quran
listen.
is one of
And the Quran is not one of them. And the sectarian tensions,
them. Okay, then the Quran
following
and
the
Hadith are
marginalized,
one of
neither the Quran, neither the Hadith is listed in the research. The leadership and ideology of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, the networking and radicalization that occurred in the U.S. run prisons, that's the cause, okay, and the opportunity created by the Civil War. These geopolitical conditions were then amplified by ISIS extreme ideology and its ability to recruit people by offering identity, purpose, and a sense of significance. So now I asked a question from the article I quoted. Does it come from a plain reading of the Quran and Hadith? According to this paper, no. So stop this. Oh, they just read Quran and became suicide bombers. Baloney. Can you not read the research? Okay.
First of
The
all,
author
that
does not argue that
second
ISIS
of all,
inevitably.
I didn't
Oh,
say
let me
that the
read. I got
Quran
15 minutes.
explicitly tells you
The
to bomb
author
others
does.
and
Okay.
explode.
The
I,
author.
mom, I my
Stop. Okay.
argument from the
Hold on.
start, my argument was that people with their screws loose,
Okay.
they
You're
read
interrupting me.
these verses,
No, that's
for
your
whatever
argument is
reason, they
wrong.
read these
It's
verses
stupid.
in these texts,
Okay.
and then they do horrible, horrible stuff.
No, no,
That
no,
was
no,
my
no,
argument.
no, no, no.
My
Let me.
argument wasn't that the Quran explicitly states, hey, you have to blow yourself up in order to
Okay.
be, forgiven. I did not say that. I said
Okay.
that the people misinterpret these verses. Listen to my words.
And that
They
never
misuse
happened.
these verses. And when you say that the Old Testament brings misery because people like Hitler misuse and misread it, doesn't it, it's a
No,
self-destructive
it's all a
destructive
delusion.
argument because,
Okay.
well, Al Qaeda, ISIS, and
Okay.
Mossad,
You're
they
just
all use the
interrupting me.
Quran to do horrible, horrible stuff too. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean that it's the
Okay.
Quran's fault. It's their fault for how they read it and use it.
No,
That's
that you're
that was
wrong.
my
It's not
argument
their
all
fault.
along.
No, you're totally, everything you're saying is wrong. You're not understanding the fault of
Keep saying,
ISIS is goes back on Israel and America and especially George Bush. So it wasn't really an issue. Okay, well, we're misinterpreting Islam. Because they never really justified the killing of innocent people with the Quran or Hadith. They never did that because even they knew that the Quran and Hadith do not teach to do that. Okay. So I'm going to take my 2 minutes here because the thing is this: ISIS proves nothing. If you look at the causes of ISIS, what caused it, there are many, 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 many different factors which are non religious. It was George Bush, it was Israel, it was America, which caused ISIS. And Donald Trump even said the same thing. It was Bush. Well, no, he actually, did he blame Obama or did he blame Bush? So, I think we're done with this. I mean, even going back to Christina's personal opinions, I don't have a problem with that. She cited, even she did not accuse the whole issue of
I
like,
just
you know,
I searched
yeah,
research.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
searched what caused Nazis.
Hmm.
What was the cause of the Nazis?
Yeah,
And well, the Chat GPT, which you're using, and
yeah.
there are several other articles here. They say that the rise of the Nazis were driven by the fallout of World War One, deep economic crisis, and intense
Wait a second.
political
I can't do
instability.
Nazis and jihad at the same time. I can't do
This
this.
this
Okay,
volatile mix allowed
but
Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party to exploit
let's get back.
public
I can't
anger
debate
and
both topics.
democratic
I can't.
vulnerability.
Ahmed,
Nowhere
you're
does it say that Adolf Hitler read the New Testament and then he was like, you know what? Let's start killing Jews.
okay. Let me ask you a question. Why is it you don't want to respect the rules of the discussion? Let's talk about that first.
Because you are not adhering to the criteria.
You don't
My
interrupt people.
argument is really simple.
No, no,
I
no.
am
I'm
not
asking why you're not
attacking
respecting the
the
rules.
Quran. I'm attacking the people and their mentality
No, you're
itself. I'm not
interrupting
attacking
people.
the Quran. I'm
You're
saying, hey,
you're
look,
you're
there
interrupting
were
people.
some people. You gave me the argument that the New Testament brings a lot of misery into this world because
Right.
of people like Hitler and that Justin Martyr. Because in the New Testament it says this. Because it says this about the Jews in the New Testament. They committed
No, no,
genocide.
no, no, no,
So,
no, no,
well,
no.
then I said, as an argument, I said, well, it's funny you say this because in the Quran, in Surah
Okay, you
Al-Adab,
just
it
want to
says
talk
this.
over people.
Because of that, people like Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, and, other people like ISIS, they do the same thing. So
No, they
your
don't.
argument doesn't stand. No, your argument
You
doesn't
cannot
stand.
read
If you're
research and
saying that
understand.
Adolf Hitler did all this and killed six
They
million
never
Jews
did any
because
of
we
that.
saw that in the New
Okay,
Testament,
I'm
that
done.
the
You are obviously not want
deicide
to
or
follow any
whatever,
rules.
self-defeating argument, because again in
You
the
don't want to
Quran
listen
there
to
are a lot of
anybody.
verses which these people, these
They
terrorist
never
groups,
did
use
that.
to defend their horrible acts.
Everything you're saying is a bold-faced lie. There's it's just total fiction, which is in your
Oh
head.
really? Oh
Okay,
really?
it's all
We'll
nonsense.
let the chat
Okay,
decide.
stop.
We'll let
What we
the
need to
ones who
talk about
saw
is
this video,
respecting the
we'll let
rules.
them decide.
Okay, what we need to talk about is you losing this debate and discussion, and you're getting angry. Okay, and then that's the
No,
reason why you're
I'm not
interrupting.
getting
Okay,
angry. I'm just
yeah,
saying that
you're interrupting
you
everybody.
the
Okay, you
only thing
lost
you
the
have
discussion. We
is
should we should we should sum up. Let's
self-destructive
stop.
argument. At the start
You
of the debate,
we're gonna
at the
end the
start of the debate,
discussion.
when this debate was
We're gonna
starting, or when
we're
the
gonna
session was starting, I
we're
told
gonna
you, Nadir,
okay.
don't bring arguments which are
No, you
self-destructive
lost
to
the
Islam.
debate, and
And
that's
you
why you're
did
interrupting.
exactly that.
Okay,
You gave me
we're gonna
great
end the live
arguments
stream. We're
for
gonna end the live
self-destruction.
stream. Let me sum it up like this, okay? I think where the problem is our format, agreed upon format, you are not following. And I know why you're not following the format. Is because you lost this debate. So now you're interrupting me. You're
Because you're
talking
not
over
adhering
me.
to your own
No,
criteria.
because you lost. You're interrupting me. You're just talking over me because you know where the discussion had it was Surah 9 verse 29. Surah 9 verse 29 was never used by ISIS. It was never used by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. It was never used by what's it called, Osama bin Laden. And there is no one cause for and in fact the cause, when we look at the cause of these groups emerging, even Christina never said this was a cause. Okay. She never said that. She just showed here's how they use it. Because she's an academic. And that's when you realize that's when you started interrupting me. That's when you try to sabotage this discussion. Okay. Because you knew you lost this discussion. I pointed out that I want to get back to jihad. Don't want to talk about the New Testament anymore because I thought we're done with that. But you keep bringing up these issues. Now, what I would like for you to understand, respect the rules of the discussion. If you can do that, great. If not, then we're done. Let me ask you a question. Do you want to respect our 2 minutes back and forth? Yes or no?
I do want to respect. I do want to respect the rules and you in general because you're my elder. However, though, what I'm noticing is that we're just going in circles. You're not understanding my point because, well, I'm trying to tell you that the argument you're giving me about Hitler or, whatever person about the
Mhm.
Nazis, I'm trying to tell you again and again that it's a self-destructive argument. It's not compatible. It's a self-destructive argument. It's a self and you're making my case stronger without even realizing it. You're making it stronger. You're actually defending the New Testament without even realizing it by
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, ISIS didn't use the Quran for their acts," or "You Hitler and Osama bin Laden didn't use the Quran or Hadith for their acts," even though they clearly did, according to the articles and other stuff. You're basically saying the same thing. It's like me saying, "Oh, Hitler never used the New Testament for what he did, even though the article says he did." So you're not adhering to that same criteria. You're not doing that. You're just calling me, yeah, pointing at me and saying that, oh, I'm just speaking nonsense and other stuff. However, I hope that the people who are watching this live stream, who are watching this debate, I hope they realize that the argument you brought up was self-destructive from the beginning. And I told you at the start of the debate, Nadir, don't bring an argument that is self-destructive that blows up on your face. And my argument was never about the Quran, the people reading the Quran literally. My argument was never about the Quran itself being demonic or a book which brings misery. That was your point. You said that the New Testament brings misery. Oh, why I might ask? You showed me that, look, Hitler, he quoted this verse where Paul wrote that the Jews killed the Christ. Well, I said, okay, well, by your logic, then, the Quran is also a book which brings a lot of misery into this world. Because look at Surah Al-Azab, Ayah 29, and these people, Osama bin Laden and ISIS, they use the Quran and Hadith to defend their horrible acts. So the same criteria or the same argument you're giving it to me against the New Testament flips over to the
Okay,
Quran
there's your
itself.
2 minutes. Let me take my 2 minutes.
But
Okay.
your
Okay.
words
Okay, that's your
that
two
the New
minutes. That's your
Testament
two
is
minutes.
miserable wasn't
Ahmed,
mine.
that's
But
your 2 minutes. Okay. Everything, literally everything you're saying is a delusion. Everything. And then the reason why is because you'd never read the research yourself. And that, or maybe you don't have the right, maybe it's a lack of education or something like that. First of all, going back to the New Testament, why the New Testament is to blame is because it is a cause of of this suffering. It literally incited hatred and anger against the Jewish people, which then culminated in the death of 6 million Jews. So that is why the New Testament is to blame. It introduced this idea which caused this problem. The research from Christina, from the universities, all agree that the Quran did not cause this to happen. They all agree on that. They showed, well, here's how they use it. That doesn't mean what was the cause of it. That's where your confusion is happening. And I think what the problem is, you never read the research yourself. Surah 9, verse 29. Again, nobody used this verse. Not bin Laden, not Omar Baghdadi. Nobody went to the Quran, used the Quran to justify killing innocent people. Even so, we are bin Laden, Abu Bakr, Baghdadi, ISIS. We are actually all in agreement on the Quran. I have no dispute with them when it comes to the Quran. We all agree. I never saw them actually misrepresent or misinterpret the Quran because they never used it to justify their actions. Okay. Secondly, the point which we see here is that the research showed that what caused ISIS were other non-religious factors. So the research you are misinterpreting, which you never read, it actually agrees, even Christine agrees with what I'm saying. Where your confusion is, you read Christina's article and you thought Christina was saying this is what caused ISIS. That's not what Christina is saying, which is, by the way, just her opinion. She's saying this is how they used it. Okay. And even within it, they didn't use any justification for killing innocent people. So, no, you cannot say that Islam caused misery and suffering. Go ahead.
well, thank you so much. Yeah, Islam didn't cause misery. Just like how Christianity and the New Testament didn't cause the Holocaust, even though you say it created the idea that Jesus killed the Christ, and because of that idea, 6 billion Jews died. However, though, that is a really self destructive argument because the Quran gives an idea of subjugating the disbelievers, and Islam in general, including the Adis, gives the idea of you know of shahada, where you'll go to heaven and all your sins would be forgiven. And because the Quran and the Hadith, Islam in general, generates or makes this idea eternal salvation if you shed your blood.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Is Islam does the same thing which you're accusing the New Testament of doing. You're accusing the New Testament of creating an idea which caused rage or a surge of
Mhm.
emotions, which caused you know all the Holocaust to happen and people to become Nazis. While you're not adhering to the fact and you're not accepting that the Quran itself creates multiple ideas like these. One of it is Surah Tawbah, ayah 29, and the other is Surah Azab, ayah 33 to 50, where Allah made it lawful for Muhammad to have relationships with his cousins and his captives, aka his acquired spoils of war. Yes, Prophet Muhammad, Allah
Okay,
saying,
okay,
Prophet
okay. Hold on, it's my turn.
you can
Okay, so
have
your 2 minutes
concubines.
over. Okay, let me. You've thrown out a
So
lot of
Quran
points.
make a lot of ideas which
Okay.
bring a lot of
That,
misery to the world.
okay.
And ISIS, Mossad, and Osama bin Laden and other people like him prove it.
Okay, so
That's
you're
my
making a lot
closing
of
statement.
claims here. You're making a lot of claims here, but you have no proof for what you're saying. Now, you said that the
Claim, I'm just
belief.
gonna throw.
Okay, hold on. Let me finish my point. Okay, subjugating the non-believers. This is what I wrote down. First of all, you don't understand what that even refers to, but that's okay. But we'll get to that. But the thing I was wanted to focus on is shahada. You die in a holy war, you go to heaven. So you said that this causes misery and suffering in the world. I haven't seen
Yes.
it. I haven't seen it. Look, I'll give you an example. Vladimir Putin teaches the same thing. If you go to Russia today, the head, of the Russian Orthodox Church, he teaches it that if you go and die in Ukraine, you'll go to heaven. Now, how much of that did it really? You cannot say that this belief in martyrdom is caused the Ukraine war. That's nonsense. That's silly. So I want to now you made a claim that what you're basically arguing is martyrdom causes misery and suffering in the world. That's what your argument is. Even though I've shown you no, that's not the case. But I would like for you to show me research to back up the things you're saying that okay, because of martyrdom, the concept of martyrdom in and of itself is what caused people to do acts of terrorism. So let's just say, like, I'm walking down the street, or let's say I'm just reading the Quran, and I just see this verse about martyrdom, and I go and just start blowing myself or killing people. This never happened. Okay, this is complete baloney. The people who did martyrdoms, like you could say, like in Iraq and people like that, it was because of several factors. Their country was invaded, innocent people were killed, that they saw their families and their lands were taken away from them. And then they also saw a terrible, brutal occupation in Palestine for the last 50 years we've been seeing. And they're like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take the oppression, misery, and suffering by Israel and America
Okay. Okay.
anymore. And
Okay.
then I will do
So
this.
just
So that's
for
the context.
just for a little bit of, are you seeing this? What it says?
Here, I'll look up the article. What is the
It
article?
flipped over, but it says Islamabad blast. ISIS takes credit. ISIS mosque bloodbath. 31
Okay.
dead. Yes. So ISIS is not only killing the disbelievers, it's also killing fellow Muslims. And
Right,
you say
right.
that you haven't seen suicide bombings and you haven't seen any of this misery that I'm talking about, right?
No, no, you're misunderstanding. You totally misunderstand. You're not educated,
You
Ahmed. That's a
literally said
problem.
that
Mm.
I
That's
have never
incorrect.
seen what you're talking about.
Okay, keep going. I'll let you finish.
So look at this. I'm about to give my closing statement. You can see uh, it is night now, like not night, but I have lost daylight completely,
Mhm.
and you can see by my face, you know, it's about to be 8 a.m. here, 8 a.m. where I
Mhm.
live, and I just want to give my closing statement. And because you're the host, I want to give your closing statement first because, as you can see, I have ran out of light completely.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I hope
There
that
is there
I'm
is no
feeling,
such thing.
you know,
There is no such thing as any kind of suicide bombing, martyrdom, or terror acts of terrorism that occurs in a vacuum from just reading the Quran and Hadith. That doesn't exist. It's a myth. The misunderstanding you're having is these occurrences. Let's just take that Islamabad bombing. Okay, this did not come from simply, merely, and only reading Quran and Hadith. That's a delusion you're suffering from. What it came from was first, it came from ISIS in Iraq. So there's a whole list of ingredients which causes ISIS, several ingredients. And it all comes from what happened in with the Iraq invasion. Before the Iraq invasion, there was no ISIS. So the research paper, and even Christine, the article you gave me does not, she agrees with me. The research clearly shows that there were several factors which caused ISIS, which then, basically created this type of trickle down effect into the type of ISIS bombing which you have experienced in Pakistan. In Pakistan, if you want to blame somebody for the ISIS bombing, blame Bush, George Bush. We do. Everybody in America, look, even Donald Trump, we all blame George Bush because he created this. You could kind of say this, um, well,
Is
snowball
George
effect.
Bush
It's like
the
it's like it's like a
president?
snowball effect, which led
Is
into
George
the
Bush
ISIS.
still the president?
It is George Bush who is responsible for ISIS, not the Quran and Hadith.
Yeah, just
Go
blame
ahead.
it on America, right?
Well,
What
that's what we
ISIS?
do. That's what the research shows. Everybody agrees with that. 100% of everybody, if you come to this country, even the Republicans, Democrats, we all agree Bush gave us ISIS. Nobody
Okay.
disagrees with that.
So now let me make my closing statement.
Yeah.
And like you said, that not only it's not only just reading the Quran and Hadith, the those aren't only the factors from which ISIS was born. ISIS was born from many factors, many ingredients, as you say,
Right.
not just the Quran and Hadith solely. And I agree with you. This is my closing statement. I agree with you. Just like how ISIS wasn't just born simply by just reading verses from the Quran and the Hadith, they were born by many ingredients, things which led to another to form ISIS.
Mhm.
Not just the Quran and the Hadith. They weren't the base of Hadith. The Quran and the Hadith aren't the basis of the creation of ISIS. That's great. I agree with it. Just like how the Nazi Germany, just like how the New Testament is not the base of Nazi Germany. There are many other ingredients, like the Treaty of Versailles, the the uh, the loss of Germany in World War One, and the outburst, the economical outburst after World War One in Germany. That's literally my point. We have the same point, that it's not just the Quran or the Hadith which caused ISIS to be formed. In the same way, it's not just the New Testament which caused Nazi Germany to form. There were many, many other factors, and unfortunately, you know, the D side was one of them. Just like how, unfortunately, the idea of Islamic theology, of Shada, was one of them. Unfortunately, for both books, for both sides. I'm not just defending my side, I'm defending your side as well. You'll never find a Christian apologist like me before. I'm not attacking the I'm not attacking the Quran. I'm not saying no, this is literally what it says. I'm just saying that just like how Hitler misread the New Testament, and just like how, unfortunately, the deicide of Jesus was one of the factors of the Nazis, just like that, the theology of Shahada in the Hadith in the Quran are one of the many, many factors in the formation of ISIS. It's basically the same thing. So
It-
that's my closing statement.
yeah, but that's
If
all
you want,
wrong. There's no,
you can,
it's not, it's
and
not a
we
cause. Shahada, martyrdom, all of that is not something which helped create ISIS. Okay. The difference is this, that even there is a single cause of anti Semitism which comes from the New Testament. And we saw that in Justin Martyr. So the problem is that I mean, yeah, you could probably argue Holocaust has many different ingredients. Fair enough. We agree with that. But the anti Semitism that we saw for 2,000 years from pogroms and killings, that did have a single source, and that is the Bible. So that's where you are wrong. Okay. That's why my argument works. And so we can blame Islam, by the way. Let's blame Islam for a certain level of you could say responsibility. We could do that if we say that once you include all these ingredients of persecution, invading the Islamic lands, you know, and subjugating them, and I'm doing all these horrible things that we saw in Palestine today. Once you do all those things, then you might get this rotten fruit of ISIS. and you can blame Islam for that. But to be very honest with you, the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians, should take 99.9% of the blame. So that's a difference. We could. So my point here is that even if we do blame Islam in this situation, it does not disprove Islam, because what the question comes is, why did you invade and persecute and kill these people? Okay, maybe sometimes you deserve what you get. So, but the what I need you to understand is New Testament had a single, the anti-Semitism does have a single source, and that's Paul. Not the you are right about the Holocaust, but the Holocaust was built upon the anti-Semitism which Paul created. That's why you really can't compare the two. All right. All right, let's wrap
But
it up,
they,
and
yeah,
we can. But the most important point, I think, with a discussion on Christianity is a lack of evidence for Paul. You didn't have really any kind of proof that he was a true prophet, but that, and I was just showing evidence that he's not, by because he is responsible for bringing misery and suffering into the world.
yeah, okay.
Okay,
So
let's wrap it up. We could talk next week.
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
all right,
Uh,
thanks.
I just wanted to discuss what is the next topic you would like to discuss.
Science. So we're going to do one scientific error in the Bible, one scientific
I
error in the allegedly in the
is it
Quran.
going to be the mustard seed?
I'll give it to you if you like. I'll send you all my arguments.
Yeah, we can see. However, though, I was thinking we could have a discussion or a debate on the divinity of Jesus.
No, that's on the list. Absolutely, we're going to do that. But you see, the
Yeah, sure.
misery.
I think that's just a more interesting topic because it's more theological, and I think it would
Well,
be more fun to talk about.
yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's definitely you're. But one of the things I wanted to point out. Let me share my screen here. See, the misery and suffering caused by the New Testament doesn't stop with the Holocaust and fetal alcohol syndrome. We did we did fetal alcohol syndrome over here by introducing alcohol. It brought a lot. It brought fetal alcohol syndrome and 7 different types of cancer. This is all modern drinking. We also got to look at other issues by the teachings of the New Testament, which caused this suffering, which you're seeing on your screen here. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to send you the my what we're probably next week. We're going to do biblical virginity test. The Bible has a virginity test right here, which has caused unimaginable suffering. Of course, it's scientifically wrong that you could try to prove somebody's virginity. So
Yeah, but
Islam.
I look. The thing is, you know, I can discuss that topic with you, but it's one of the more sensitive topics.
Okay.
So I would personally like you to discuss the divinity of Christ itself, because that's one of the main roots of Christianity. Like you have the pillars of Islam, right?
Right.
Salah, the Hajj, Zakat. This is like literally the pillars of Christianity, and that is
Sure.
the divinity of Christ.
Okay, let's
I
we
think
can do science. Okay.
that would be a really good topic to discuss.
We can do all the misery and suffering caused by the teachings of the New Testament. We can do that at a later time. We can do divinity of Christ next week. How about that?
Yeah, sure, that's great.
Okay, and I'll give you my argument so you can see what I'm saying here. Okay, I'll talk to you later. I gotta get going. All right. All right,
Okay,
bye.
so you can
Bye.
email me,
Yeah,
the argument uh,
well,
on the divinity of Christ, and I could hopefully email you some more articles about
mhm.
ISIS, or their motivation or whatever. If you want to see, of course
Yeah,
you don't.
what you need to do, you need to show that, that Quran and Hadith were the cause of it, and that this caused it. And, of which the
Yeah, so
research, I mean, has already stated, no, it didn't cause it. Okay. It was George Bush who caused it. You got to come to America. You got to come to Europe, and everybody will explain to you. It was Bush who did it, not anybody else or any Quran or Hadith.
by the way, this is really off topic. By the way,
Yeah.
we have been discussing and debating for such a long time, and as you said before, we should come out as friends every time.
Mhm. Yes.
I would just like to know what made you choose America over every country else, any country else?
Well, that was my parents who brought me here, so I didn't actually have a choice in the matter.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so your parents were in America when you were born,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they we are muhajir, meaning we first migrated from India to Pakistan, and then like, oh, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 years ago or something. Oh, no, more than that, 60 years ago, they came to UK, and then from UK to America.
I would say I would say that you were born in a really good time. Like, your parents they probably saw the partition, and that was a really
Yeah.
dark chapter of history when it comes to the subcontinent, the partition. But I
Right.
would say that you lived a really beautiful life, probably more beautiful than my generation, because the people who were born in the late 60s or 70s or the 80s, yeah, even in the 90s, they had a really good life. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
we
I
missed a
really
lot of
I
the
really want
suffering which
you
they went
to
through.
someday visit Pakistan, maybe see how it is.
Hmm.
Well, it was really good back in the day, but obviously, you and your parents were in America. It was so
Right.
good. We used to have F1 races on the freeway. Have you seen
Hmm.
those F1 cars,
Yeah,
Formula
yeah,
One
yeah.
cars?
Yes,
We
yes.
used to have races of Formula One cars on
Hmm.
our freeways. Like, this was such a nice place to live in back in the day. But
Yeah,
well, politics and self segregation and stuff. As you said, you are Mahajir, and you know
yeah.
this self everything got ruined as time went on. Now,
Hmm.
I do sound young, but I'm not that young. I
How old are
believe
you?
that I used to listen to music in a cassette tape.
Yeah.
We used to have these cassette tapes. They were this big, and the first time I started listening to music was through headphones and in a cassette recorder. So I probably sound really young because of my voice, but I'm not that young.
Hmm. Okay,
So
how old are
yeah,
you?
like I said, we should walk away from these debates.
Absolutely.
We
Well,
should walk away from these
yeah.
discussions as a
Uh,
friend, not as an
yes,
enemy.
totally. Sure.
And hopefully, I'll see you next Saturday with the divinity of Christ.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good. All right, I'll talk to you later. All
Well,
right, bye.
thank you so much.
Mhm.
Good.